everybody, and welcome to the Kiseki/Trails series tier list. Now, this is one of those times, like when I made that manga tier list way back when. I know nobody really cares, but I will actually cry if I don't get to voice this opinion on this. So, a little bit of background. I started playing Trails. Let me just look up Trails on Steam. The earliest achievement that I have is completing the prologue in 2021. I've had a sort of rocky past with this series. There were several times where I did that thing where you go, oh, I haven't beat that game, let me try to beat it, and then I just quit because it was so boring to me. Eventually, though, on a date known as July 12th, 2025, that's right, 4 months ago, I beat Chapter 3, and then I completed Chapter 4 and beat the game, and it was fucking awesome. I started playing SC. Let's take a look at when I started playing SC. I started playing SC 8 days after that, beat the prologue, beat the game by July 28th. I started playing Sky 3rd. July 29th, a little bit after that, beat it August 5th. Next up is Zero. I started Zero August 5th, and then I finished it August 10th. Azure, let's see when I start. I started it August 10th. I beat it August 15th. I think I went directly. What the fuck? This is in the playlist? Cold Steel 1. Okay, this game was a motherfucker to beat, I will say. It was a lot more clunky than the previous ones because the speed up was less good. It took me like a week to beat that one. CS2. There were some issues with CS2. I don't have it on my Steam. I had to pirate it. But I beat it around August 22nd. CS3, August 24th start, August 31 end. CS4 definitely took me a long ass time. August 31st start, September 16th end. And then I've been working on Reverie. Let's see. Reverie also took me a decent amount of time because I had work to do. September 16th start, October 6th start. So right now I'm on Daybreak 1. There are 4 games that I have not played, so let's just put those right there. I am heavily looking forward to Daybreak 2. I will actually give my thoughts on Daybreak 1 when I get there. These games look to be very, very, very promising from what I've seen so far. Let's just get started with Trails in the Sky FC. FC is an interesting game. After I beat it, I understand why it exists, but I do have to weigh the fact that this is the only game that even made me consider quitting. There is no Trails game in this series that even made me think that I would stop playing Trails except for Trails in the Sky FC. There are a lot of problems with this game, and a lot of them are systematic issues with this game. This game was made, of course, very, very long ago, and as a result, a lot of the issues that end up coming from a situation like that, it's clunky, there's not a lot of quality of life, the industry standard isn't matched yet, so there's a lot of UI issues. But the game's good. I mean, none of these games are bad, except for, I might argue, 1 or 2 of them are, like, bad. But even then, that's, like, they're quote-unquote bad. This game is... I like it because it establishes Liberal as a continent, as a country reasonably well. It doesn't do a ton of the outside Liberal world building. That's a lot of that's left for SC. The character introductions are pretty reasonable. Like, you meet most of the characters. Pretty much the only characters you don't meet in this game that you're gonna need to know in SC is like Kevin and the Ouroboros members. The ending, I mean, it's good. What can I say? I do think that there's a tendency for people to act like the ending of FC is good enough to get you to play the next game. This is not true. The ending of FC by itself is not enough to make you play the next game. What is enough to make you play the next game is the fact that the second half, no, the last third of FC is pure fucking gas. The first couple chapters are this, like, sort of self-contained narrative about solving a bunch of issues, and you do see and experience the fact that it does have some sort of broader repercussions, but I'm just going to say this right now. I've had a long-standing issue with JRPGs stemming from when I first played Octopath Traveler 1. I really have an issue with the genre, and I feel like a lot of my experiences with it has sort of been tainted by that. But one of the things I still kind of have an issue with is that there's a lot of JRPGs that just don't have a lot to say, or feel like, I don't know, they won't pay off. As somebody who has experienced a lot of manga and anime, a lot of Japanese media, and played a lot of games, while Trails in the Sky does establish reasonably early on that it does have something to say, there is not much in the game that would maybe lead you to believe that what it has to say is actually so important. Let me put it this way, right? The stuff where people are losing their memories, the setup for Professor Alba, all that stuff is interesting, but by itself doesn't necessarily make you think that the developers and the writers have enough skills to truly pull it off. The truth is they do, but you don't have this kind of reassurance. And so as a result, it can kind of feel a little hard to make it through the early parts of the game where you're just like fucking around helping out somebody on the farm. The navigation, oh my god. All three of the Trails games except for Sky Third exactly. So I guess the first two games of the series have this issue where getting from point A to point B is a little annoying, which is fine if you had to do it once, but you have to do it like 17 times because every single quest in every region needs you to backtrack at least 5 times, and there's like a bunch of quests every single chapter. Not a fan. I'm just gonna put it right there. I just don't like the fact that you have to backtrack that much. They definitely, a lot of this is fixed in the remake, and as a result, I am fucking pumped for the Sky SC remake. Holy fuck, that game is gonna change the world, man. But I cannot feel comfortable putting Trails in the Sky FC above a C tier. SC, on the other hand, god damn! This game is so fucking good. It still has all of the fundamental issues that FC does for the most part. The fact that a lot of stuff can feel a little slow. The gameplay and the moving around stuff is a little unintuitive and a little clunky at times. But the game just fucks, man. Holy shit, it's so good. Right from the beginning, the second you finish the tutorial in, Le Mans State or whatever, you are in that shit. Straight up. You know what's going on. There are stakes, and everything just keeps going. Estelle's trying to find Joshua. You get to pick one of Agate and Shara, so you have a little bit of replayability. They all do their secret mission. There's a fucking dragon in this game, people. There is a dragon in this game. You get to fight a sick-ass fucking dragon. You get to infiltrate the spaceship. This game is long. This game has the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 thing where, like, there are a lot of chapters. In Xenoblade Chronicles 1, there's at least 3 times where you're like, man, chapter 12 or something, I don't know the exact numbers and the story beats that they relate to, but it's like, man, I'm on chapter 12, it must be close to the end, and then there's like 6 chapters after that because you're not close to the end. This game, you pretty much for the most part, you know when you're close to the end, because it's not like you sort of have like, it's not like Xenoblade where you feel like you have a grasp of the world, and then they say, actually, here's one thing you might have missed, and then completely change everything. You know for the most part that you're up against Ouroboros and whatever plan they're doing. You might not know the extent to it, but until that stopped, you're not done. SC is an awesome, awesome game. Truly, truly fantastic game. I just can't glaze enough how well the story's done. The interpersonal character relationships in this game are fucking to die for. You have Olivier and Shara, Olivier and Mueller, Estelle and Joshua, Joshua and Chloe, Joshua and the fucking Capua lady whose name I always forget, Josette. You have Tita and Agate. A lot of really cool Chloe and what's her face? Chloe and Julia. There's a lot of cool stuff in this game. And also, you get to see Anton act like a fucking idiot. It speaks to a lot that SC is, I think, to this day, the only Trails game that I've actually 100%ed. Part of that is because it doesn't have a nightmare mode thing. But yeah, there's a lot of really awesome characters introduced in this game that have a lot of long-lasting repercussions for the series. Ren is introduced. Walter doesn't really have a ton of repercussions, but Ren and Gilbert, for example, Kevin is introduced in this game. A lot of stuff is really important in this game, and you learn about it in this game, and it's going to have a lot of impact later on in the Crossbell Erebonia arcs. I really think this game is like the platonic ideal of the second game in a Trails series. Trails does this thing where, like, most of the time the games are split in are released in pairs. So you have SC at FC and SC, Zero and Azure, Cold Steel 1, Cold Steel 2, Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4, Daybreak 1, Daybreak 2, Horizon and Horizon 2. And then you have a couple of outliers like Sky Third and Reverie in there, because they serve a little bit of a different purpose, which I will talk about later. I think that SC is a perfect second game, if that makes any sense. It's the first time that they do a second game in, like, a particular arc, and it knocks it out of the park. The feeling of progression that you get in SC, starting off with your like tier 3 or whatever orbments, and then you get the new orbment slots, and you get to upgrade your stuff. You get to get more and more powerful stuff. Olivier is a total badass. You get to learn about the fact that he's the actual prince. He got me. I also thought he was just some kind of like higher up in the government, or like some kind of spy or something. No, that motherfucker is the Prince of Erebonia. That's crazy. The end game of SC, where you see the army of Erebonia, the fucking country gets put into lockdown, the Liber Arc shows up, you go onto it, you have the sick fucking fighting scenes in the sky, you make it onto the Liber Arc, and you have to save everybody and, you know, bring Ren back from the brink. It is beautiful, beautiful stuff, man. Absolutely gorgeous writing and gameplay coherence in there. The only thing I sort of have an issue with, is that Kevin is, he's not necessarily shoehorned in, because he shows up pretty early on in SC, but it does feel like it would have been a little bit more graceful if Kevin at least, like, showed up or, like, made a cameo in FC, but it's very clear that they had the idea for Kevin starting in SC, which, fair enough, I don't really blame him too much. This is going in my SSS tier. This is one of my favorite Trails games, and that means a lot, because I love these fucking games. Moving on to Sky Third, this is going to be a bit of a contentious take. Sky Third is really good at a few specific things. It's really, really good at them. Sky Third is the final of the Sky game, so they decided, okay, let's give the Sky, the Trails in the Sky combat system one last hurrah, add a bunch of stuff to it, make it more difficult, and I'm really a fan of that. However, there's a lot of stuff that really suffers as a result. The main plot, it's sort of interesting, but it's really not that. It's the quality of like what a side plot would be otherwise. The Kevin Reese stuff is interesting, but it's not really. It has nothing compared to, for example, side plots that are like a lot more interesting, like Randy's development in Zero and Azure, Emma's development throughout the Cold Steel games. The stuff with Ren across Crossbell Erebonia, a lot of that I feel like is a lot more interesting than Sky Third's main plot. However, Sky Third is very good at a few things, like I said, and the other thing that it's really, really, really good at is being a damn good advertisement for Zero. Trails in Sky Third, every single one of the, I love this concept of the star doors, the sun doors. I really like that. The mini games are maybe a little crazy, but I think it's fun. The star doors are all very clearly established to tell you, by the way, we're not fucking done here, folks. We got big things in the plan. You get to meet Gileath Osborne for the first time in one of the star doors, and he tells you that he's going to be looking over Crossbell and Erebonia, so you know that the next game that takes place in Crossbell is going to go fucking crazy. Crossbell is also established really well in SC as like a baseline. You know, in the main plot, you're told that Crossbell is a country that's, you know, sandwiched like by Erebonia and Calvert, and as a result, it has a lot of political issues, and it's sort of it has like private and public interests forcing its hand a lot of times, and there's a lot of shit going on in Crossbell. Crossbell is the place where stuff goes to happen. A lot of other places in the continent can sometimes feel like nothing ever happens simulator, from like an overall perspective, until this game starts at least, but Crossbell, like shit, you can't have shit in Crossbell. I think that the establishment of characters like Gileath, obviously, and also Lecter, man, I fucking love Lecter. Lecter Arundel is one of the most hilarious and fun characters in the Trails series, and he does get his start in Sky Third. That little daydream that you have with him and Chloe, and then when you see him as Osborne's second in command, quote unquote, not really, but like as one of his underlings, it's like, oh shit, this character is awesome, and also he's going to really be important. You also get to see the setup for Ren's character arc conclusion as it was set up in SC. In SC, you know, Joshua and Estelle are like, Ren, we love you. People love you. You don't need to be an Ouroboros to feel loved. And then Ren's like, fuck you, I'm leaving. And then she shows up again in Sky Third, which is a fun little surprise. And then you also get to learn about her past, which I felt was very compellingly written. I mean, obviously it's extremely dark, but it's about what I expected for a girl like her. It definitely goes a little bit further than I was expecting Trails to go. Trails is a game that sort of hints very frequently at more mature topics, but it often shies away from them. And this can be evidenced a lot by the fact that characters don't really die very frequently at all. Until SC, the only like important character that dies is when Kevin turns what's his face, Alba, what the fuck is his name? Weissman into a pile of salt. That's like the only time that I can think of so far that somebody named dies. So I think that the inclusion of Ren's character is a lot more interesting, and you also get to see that Estelle and Joshua are going to Crossbell, and so is Ren. So you're going to be able to see that conclusion as well in Crossbell. I think that setup, making Crossbell just more interesting and something that you're just going to want to experience as a result, genius stuff. However, I can't, like, that's like cool, but like we have to be realistic here. The overall plot is really dog shit. They try to act like Louvet being the fucking the guy in the mask is not the most obvious shit of all time when it's literally a recycled portrait. It's very contrived and like overblown. It's very choony is how I would describe it. The storytelling is somewhat fragmented at times because the gameplay often takes precedence. And there's a lot of cool stuff in there, like when like Kevin and Reese get sent down to hell. That's pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's alright. Like I just don't think that it hangs with the big dogs. Every single other game in the series, for the most part, is a big dog. I would put it honestly at the bottom here. I know that there's a lot of Sky Third Glazers in there, and I respect you all, but for my money, this game is like a $20 to $30 advertisement to play Trails from Zero. And I'm gonna be honest, I would much rather just play Trails from Zero and have the good time. Speaking of which, now this game fucks. Trails sometimes has an issue with making the first game in the pair interesting. Cold Steel, the first games in the pair, of course, are Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 1, 0, and FC. As you can see, FC is at the bottom here because I feel like the overall plot is... It's not necessarily its fault, but it is very much not allowing... It's not allowed to be that interesting because you don't know that the writers are good yet. 0, you know the writers are good, and also it's very interesting right from the get-go. Right from the start, you get to go into Crossbell. I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw... after I beat 3rd chapter, I went to the Trails from Zero because I was like, oh, this one's next. And I was like, oh man, do I gotta play another one of these pixelated ass ugly games? The Erebonian game, can I just go to Cold Steel? I'm gonna be honest, this game is so fucking worth it. Like, holy shit, this game is good. Let's start off with the UI and gameplay. The UI is a little bit harder to get used to because it's not fully designed for computer the way that the FC and SC are really made great for computer. You have to use your menus and stuff, but there's a lot of really nice quality of life. The way that you equip your orbment and stuff is so much nicer. That's another thing I forgot to mention about FC and SC. Re-equipping orbment and shit in this game is something you have to do all the time and fucking sucks to do. I hate handling orbment in these two games. It becomes a lot more tolerable in 0 when you realize that for 99% of the game you have exactly 4 characters at your disposal. I really appreciate that. That's another thing that Trails Third suffers from, which I feel like a lot of other games suffer from too, which is that if you have a lot of playable character bloat in a Trails game, it becomes really frustrating to play because there's just a lot more shit to manage. Even if you only have access to a few at a time, you're gonna get access to all of them at the end, and it's gonna be a fucking endeavor to keep track of it all. I really love the establishment of Lloyd's character as like the standard guy. You know, he's not like anything crazy. He has, of course, even a normal character in Trails has a little bit more going on underneath the hood than you would expect. He's got the stuff with his brother, and, you know, he's got how he sort of feels under the shadow of some other characters, which I think is a really cool concept that, at least until the end of Erebonia, is very well represented. Estelle and Joshua feel like they're always living in the shadow of their dad. Lloyd feels like he's living in the shadow of his brother. Reen feels like he's living in the shadow of pretty much everybody else, honestly. he's in the shadow of Gilead to some extent, but in a different manner, which I will discuss later. The characters in this game are very good. I mean, I don't know what to say. The introduction, they introduced Tio, Ellie, and Randy very early on, and you get to talk with them a lot. The first couple chapters are interesting. You know, you get to see Ravach, you get to see firsthand the issues that Crossbell's government has, as, you know, Ravach just gets to walk over everybody because they have so much hold in the parliament. The game is very, very good at, very early on, making sure you understand what's at stake. Crossbell is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Almost very literally speaking. It has so little going for it, and everything that the outside powers do to it, it's designed to make the people's life worse. I think it's very, very interesting political commentary about stuff like about colonization. Technically, you know, Crossbell is not colonized, but, you know, there's so much outside pressure on it that they're sort of felt to conform. You know, you meet Sergei, Tio, Ellie, and Randy very early on. You get to learn how they work in combat. And then, as time goes on, you get to learn more about their characters. You first learn about Ellie on the rooftop. I'm gonna be honest, the only like, playable character that I feel like really falls flat in the Crossbell games is Ellie. Like, she's, there's a lot of cool stuff that they could have done with her later on, but it just does not manifest itself properly. And I'll talk about it later on when we get to Azure. The fast travel system with the bus, oh my god, it's so much more convenient than having to walk everywhere. There's only a few locations, and they're all, like, pretty centrally connected, so there's a bunch of stuff to do. The quests are a lot more interesting in this game than in SC, because in the SC there are some quests that are just, like, giga boring, but Zero's quests are very cool. Okay, yeah, the first chapter, you guys just meet up, and you meet Wald and Wazy, who are also both really fun characters. You get to learn about the downtown of Crossbell. You get to get more, you know, oriented in the city. You meet all the big names. You get to meet, you get to meet Grimwood. You get to meet Arios. You get to meet Grace. You get to meet fucking Sergei. You get to meet Fran and Noel. It's very well set up. This also, from gameplay perspective, is the introduction of the Orbital Staff, which I think is pretty cool. It's a magical weapon that you can, like, even when you attack with it, it's magical. I always felt like Chloe kind of had some issues with that, where, like, if she didn't have EP and she wanted to do, and I needed her to do some kind of damage on a turn, it would just be kind of a shit show. Regardless, you also get to learn about Heiyue, who's going to be very important later on. Starting with Chapter 1, you get to go to suspicious, sightings in Mines Mountain Village, and you get to go meet up with everybody. You learn about the situation in Armorica Village. You figure out what's going on. You go to Ursula Medical College. You figure out what's going on. You meet Cecile in the process. The cast is so fucking good. Like, you get to also meet Shizuku while you're at Ursula Medical College. You get to have talks with you get to talk with everybody. You also get to meet with Noel you get to meet Noel for the first time, like, officially, and then you also, you see Ren in the background, and you get to go to the Rosenberg studio and meet York, which is also really cool. I just think it's really awesome. You get to go to the Mines Mountain Village, you figure out what's going on, and figure out how Ravach is involved. You get to meet with Zeit as well. Zeit shows up, who's going to be very important later on, of course. And then you beat the shit out of the guys, and then finally, after all of this shit happens, you get to move on to the next chapter. Next chapter is a lot more interesting because you get to learn about the ins and outs of Ravach as a corporation. You learn about Garcia and Marconi. You get to learn about Archon Ciel. This is the chapter that first features Archon Ciel. Now, the outfit design, does it get me horny? Yes. Is that a fair way to critique it? Not particularly, so I'm not going to be counting that here. I don't know about the outfits, man. Ilya and Risha, I mean, they're cool with it, so I think that's fine, but it's a little much. But they're fine with it, but also they're fictional characters, so it's like, I don't know. I think it's fine. They're talented, but also, like, this is one of the games that I hope does get, like, a remake, and it will, and it's gonna fucking rip ass, first of all. Rip ass in a good way, I guess. This shit's gonna rip because you're gonna get to see all these cutscenes with a, you know, like, more clearly, because when they're doing, like, the dancing routines in Zero and Azure, it's like, okay, I mean, it's like little clay models, whatever. This is also where you first learn about Yin. Yin is just a fascinating character. Risha Mao, aka Yin, is such an interesting fucking character, dude. She's so, like, I love that Trails is willing to say, we're gonna put you on hiatus for like 4 games and bring you back, the way they did with like Walter and Zin moving on into Daybreak, the way they did with Yin's role as a Zhongshu for Sao. You also get to, oh my god, I forgot, dude, you get to meet Yona in this game. Dude, this game is fucking awesome. Fuck, this game's awesome. You get to meet Dieter Krois and Mary Bell. You learn about the stuff. Dieter gives you that big ass fucking speech. You know, you go to the tower, the bell tower. Can I just say, bell tower design in Zero and Azure, the environment design is actually to this day unmatched in the Trail series. The games are not quite able to represent what they want to do properly, but holy fuck is it beautiful. The way that it's all like a little overgrown, and then there's a bunch of greenery everywhere. The music, oh my god, the music in Crossbell, man. Sky and Crossbell have some of the craziest OSTs of all time. Of course, you have Get Over the Barrier. Bow, 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 boo, boo, bow. Anyways, you also get to meet Dudley, and then you get to stop the plot on Henry, Ellie's grandpa's life. Ellie's character is a little interesting, but it's kind of boring as well. Like, it's, I think the idea of her being split, her family being split across borders to mirror the way that Crossbell is split across the interests of Erebonia Calvert itself is interesting, but they don't really do a lot with it. Let's put it that way. There's like one quest in Crossbell, in Erebonia arc, that where you like talk about Ellie's dad, and even then it's not like they don't get to like have like a reunion. Ellie's mom, I think, actually, you don't get to have a reunion or whatever. So whatever, you get to see Sergey, and then there's like a bunch of weird shit going on. Finally, after all of this shit, you know, you get to meet the Bell, and then all the books are gone and shit. It's very interesting. I love the fucking quests in Zero, man. The quests in Crossbell are still better than all the other quests in the series. The stuff where you have to go back to the tower and find out that the books are missing. Who could have done that? You get to go, there's like the speeding stuff. There's just a bunch of really awesome stuff. And then finally, this shit is crazy. The anniversary festival shows up. So you have a 5-day festival, and you get to meet a bunch of different people. And there's a lot of other issues. You get to meet fucking Sully in a side quest, which is crazy, right? Like, you get to meet Sully, who's an important character, well, tangentially important character in Azure, Steel 3, and Steel 4, and to some extent Reverie, and she's just there. You get to see that Ren is Kitty, and then, oh baby, this is when the game really goes into sicko mode. Up until now, of course, you get to meet Estelle and Joshua, you get to be buddy with them, because even though, like, the Bracers are, like, you know, oh my god, I totally forgot to talk about how I love games where everybody fucking hates you. The start of Persona 5, when everybody just fucking hates you and hates your guts, is so awesome, and they do this really well in Zero. The special support section is a fucking gopher. They're not supposed to be they're not supposed to be effective. They're just kind of there to, like, sort of soak up blame. But the fact that they slowly gain people's trust, including the Bracer Guild, by doing things, by being honest with themselves and talking about everything, with the people, and servicing the needs of the people first and foremost, I think is awesome. It was always going to be a tough act to follow up the concept of the Bracer Guild, but I think that the special support section does it wonderfully. In a location like Crossbell, where national security comes up a lot more than you would think, having a group of people that can actually intervene in that kind of situation can actually be very important. And I think that makes it so that the setup of Lloyd and Randy and Ellie and Tio as being members that can all work together and help out the national and international issues the way the Bracers just simply can't because of their code. I think that works out really, really well. And then, day 4 of the fucking festival, you get to meet Colin Hayworth. Well, you get to meet Sophia and what's-his-face Hayworth earlier. I didn't recognize them from the CGs because the art styles are pretty different. But this quest is so fucking beautiful. This is the first time I actually cried playing a Trails game, is this quest right here. Where Ren saves Colin almost out of instinct, and she starts crying because she was finally able to save him the way that she herself wasn't able to be saved. It's just so beautiful, man. I love that. after that, you get to learn that Ren was abducted by the D therefore G cult, and then she was freed by Luve, and then became an enforcer. You get to learn more about the D therefore G cult. I'm just gonna call it the DG cult, dude. And then you're like, okay, this is what's going on. This is the issue. Boom. Day 5, you get a fucking invitation for the Schwartz auction because with Ren. You need the auction because you need to figure out what the fuck's going on up there. So there's something weird going on. You get to go to Michelin, and oh my god, dude. The Schwartz auction is the peak of Zero. Trails from Zero. Meeting Lecter Arundel, I expected to enjoy Lecter's character in Zero. I did not expect to enjoy him that much. The first impression you get is that he's on the boat in this fucking in his fucking pajamas and his Hawaiian t-shirt. Which is so beast mode, by the way. That's so fucking beast mode for him to do that. And then after that, you get to go to the auction and he's fishing up a goldfish inside Hartman's mansion. Dude, that scene is pure gold. You get to meet up with Wazzy, talk about how he's cucking some dude that has too much money. And then Kia. It's crazy that they do everything so well. And that's before Kia shows up, dude. Kia is such a wonderful, delightful character to get to know. I love Kia so much. And I'm pretty sure Kia is like the Nanako Dojima of Trails. If you hate Kia, there's actually something deeply wrong with you as a person. She's actually such a wonderful child. And I think that it is a little bit easy to get the player to like a young girl who's like really cute and also acts like who's like really nice, and also you don't have to like deal with her fucking tantrums because you don't have to deal with her being like a baby because she's like 9 years old approximately. And then it's like, but I mean I don't know, I still think that's important. It's so fucking based that they were like, okay, what if Lloyd became a dad? And it's like that it works, man. It works so fucking good. You make the retreat from the thing, and then you start learning about Kia, and then you get this beautiful... This is the first intermission chapter in the series, and I think that these chapters are so necessary. Trails is a game that is, you know, there's a lot of lore and plot to digest at times. Like, in a game like Cold Steel 3, there is so much shit going on. There's so many moving parts. You need some time to chill out and have a good time. That's really important to me. And I think that the intermission chapters are really good. You know, you get to talk to Kia, you know, have a fun time with her, and you just get to learn about her and see how wonderful of a character she is and how kind of weird she is too. Like she's like really good at cooking because she has like some kind of knowledge about it. She starts glowing blue sometimes. What's up with that? And then finally we have the last 2 chapters where we have the issues. We have these last two chapters kind of blend together a little bit, but they work together pretty well, basically. The idea is that you have the Gnosis drug, and it's starting to, you know, it's been spread all throughout Crossbell and starting to have ramifications. And, you know, all of these games have you sort of solving mysteries to some degree, but Crossbell is really good at it, and I think that makes sense that it's good at it because it kind of has to be good at it, because you play as detectives. Anyways, you get to learn about the Gnosis, you get to go around everywhere, you get to see the tendrils that Ravash has perpetrated throughout the country. Fucking, what's it called? The, Heiwei gets absolutely fucked up. Sao is fine, because of course he is. But I think that this is all really good stuff. And then of course you go into Crossbell's longest day. Everybody's missing, shit's going wrong, the cult's working, the Ravash is fighting, you have to infiltrate everybody, go into the fucking cult thing, and then it's Joachim Günther. He's the bad guy. I can't believe they pulled that shit again. And it's not gonna be the last time they pull it either. They pull that shit where they have just like an elderly intellectual be the bad guy all over and over again. Anyways, you go there and then you meet Estelle and Joshua. What's up with that though? Well, we met Estelle and Joshua now. And we're in the same spot that the game started. But we didn't have Estelle and Joshua then. What's up with that? Very interesting. Keep that in mind. And then you just fucking beat ass. Of course, Günther turns into a demon and you kill him. But it's kind of disgusting and it's like, ugh, do we really have to do that? And everybody turns into demons and shit. It's very interesting. Also, Kevin shows up at some point. I think it's also, when exactly? Right before the intermission is when you learn about Randy, because Garcia tells you that, refers to Randy as the son of the war god. we're gonna talk more about Randy. We're gonna talk a hell of a lot more about Randy when we get to Azure. This character is, I think Randy's my favorite Trails character, so we're gonna be talking about it. Also, I will say, I love, this game also is really, really good at progression. Trails is a series, I think that the progression is so fucking important. The games get slightly more mature as you travel along the series, but they also, the world develops more. Of course, the speed of the development of the world is a little, like, accelerated, like you don't even have like video conferencing, and then 7 years later there's like a VTuber culture in Calvert, and it's like, okay, I mean, we might have moved a little bit fast, but whatever. I think the introduction of the Orbital Net and exploring and delving into the issues systematically that creates with characters like Yona is so fucking interesting, dude. It's like, of course, man, they don't have laws against hacking, so Yona's able to get away with it because it's not illegal yet. He knows it's going to be illegal, but it's kind of like what's happening with AI right now. We know that, like, the current way that AI is used is going to have some kind of restrictions placed on it, but the companies right now are exploiting it because there's no, like, regulations, no, like, meaningful regulations put in place for it. It's so fucking cool. And as somebody that wasn't alive when, like, the internet started happening, I love learning about how these kinds of things come across, and I just think it's fucking awesome, dude. Also, there's trains in Crossbell. Big fan of trains. Love that. Yeah, basically that's about it. Now, with all the glaze I've given Trails from Zero, you might think that it's an S tier game. No, dude. Sky SC is still better. I mean, an SS tier game, it's not better. Trails from Zero definitely goes into S tier, though. It deserves that fucking S tier. This is probably the second best of the first games in the series. Moving on to Azure, holy shit. What a game. Trails to Azure is like, it's so fucking good. It's so good, it should be, like, illegal. First of all, the mechanics. Burst, it's alright. The Master Quartz. There is so much, in Trails that stays for the rest of the series that is so heavily owed to Crossbell, and that's like objectively just like a good mechanic. Number one, first and foremost, U-Material. U-Material as a concept is a Crossbell mechanic that just got ported over because they were like, this shit rules, let's just keep it. U-Material and customizing weapons, great mechanic. Love that mechanic. Number two, Master Quartz. Awesome mechanic. It technically isn't in Daybreak, but like it is like spiritually in Daybreak with the Hollow Cores that you equip. The fact that it lets you have a value for your Sepith and also gives you passive buffs while also giving you active buffs, great. I will say, this game is hard as fuck. This game is not easy. Not even close to it. This game might be harder than Sky Third, and I did have to play this game on an easier difficulty because I was, one, really anxious to see where the story went, and also, two, still really bad at Trails. The game, of course, starts with you meeting Arios McLean. I love that they keep the main... It's so important to me. It's hard to overstate this. It's so important to me that there is so much that is set up and resolved within Zero, but it still sets up enough that has to be resolved within Azure. Randy's relationship to the SSS, with how much he just, poor guy, he just hates himself for being a former Jaeger. Elia's relationship with her grandpa and how she's trying to help out Crossbell, but she has a hard time figuring out how to do so. What went on with Guy? Who killed Guy? What's up with that? The DG cult. What's going on with that over? Who the fuck is Kia? What's gonna happen with what's it called? Heiyue. All of this shit is set up for Azure, and I think it's perfect for that. Of course, you get to have your like little tutorial in the cave at the start of the game. You get to save, quote unquote, save Ernest and Hartman, of course, because Hartman has been deposed. I will say, I'm kind of the goat at Trails, because when I was playing this game, so right after I beat Zero, I said this earlier, but I moved directly. I had Azure installed and bought the day that I moved from Zero, because there was a sale going on, so it was cheaper. Right here, I'm just gonna read out some of my things. Oh, actually, there is one thing that really sucks about Zero. Olivier doesn't show up. What the fuck's up with that? Olivia doesn't even show up in this fucking game. Hello? That's very cringe. Whatever. I started to make theories about what I thought it could be. I wanted to call my shot because I feel like it was possible for me to call my shot as to who killed Guy. I assumed that whoever tipped off Yin about Kia and put Kia in the coffin is also the person who killed Guy. And then my my suspects were Sergey, Cecile, Arios, Dudley, and Grimwood. Technically, I was like, it could have been Guy himself, but then Meister, my friend, who has been accompanying me through my Trails journey, love that guy, told me that the bullet was in back. So bullet was in Guy's back, so it was not him. He didn't commit suicide. So I was like, it's not Cecile, because they wouldn't spend as much time endearing the player to her. And even if they did, at the end of Zero, there's this part where she's on the roof and she's protecting this kid, and you get to hear her inner monologue. I feel like if Cecile was evil, they might let her do that, but they definitely would not give you her inner monologue. So I felt like it was not Cecile. Arios and Dudley are both characters in the party, so I was like, that's not gonna happen. That obviously I was wrong about that. And then I was like, so it's either Sergey or Grimwood. Right now my instinct is like, yeah, it's Sergey. And then I was like, what's the motive here? If the mastermind really does know about everything, this fucks with Ravach's credibility, which fucks with Hartman. Oh, it's Dieter, isn't it? And then I was like, oh, I need to see this game, because this game's gonna fucking rule. This game introduces all the, this game introduces a ton of stuff. Of course, Wazi and Noel get to join the SSS. Awesome stuff. You get to have the character, the room stuff, and you can see Penguin Kia, which is a nuclear level warhead of cuteness. Love that kid. Keep it up. And then you also have the game mechanics that I established so far. You get a car, which is fucking awesome, man. Getting a car is so base. It makes the fast travel even easier, but also it's just cool to have a car. Because even in Zero, you're like, man, the first investigative division gets a car. Why don't we get a car? And then you get a car, and it's like, oh, that's fucking rules. You know, you get to see that the Crossbell, the Fisherman's Guild gets fucked up. You get to go through everything, and then boom, the first big plot point, I think, in Azure, of course, is that you get to go to the training ground, and then you get to see Muriel and Randy and stuff. But as you go back there, you get to see fucking Sigmund and Shirley, and then you're like, oh, these characters are weird. And then you get to learn that they're Randy's family members. Oh, hell yeah. Randy's gonna be really important in this game, and that's fucking awesome. And then you also get to see Olivier and Mueller in like a side scene, which is fucking awesome. I love that this game does flash forwards, because actually, interestingly enough, Zero, Azure, Cold Steel 1, and Cold Steel 2 take place at around the same time. There's a lot of intersecting events that reference each other. So you get to do stuff like see Yuna in the training academy, you get to see Toa, during the big conference. You get to see what's his face, G or whatever, he gets fucking killed. Stuff like that. It's interesting. We move on, and we get to meet Olivier, and Mueller shows up wearing the glasses, and it's like, dude, you're not fooling anybody. And then Olivier gets his fucking ass beat by the little kiddo running the arms store. And then he does the dance with Mishi, you get to see him. It's just a fun time, man. I love Olivier. Anyways, moving on, we get to move on to character interactions between Randy, Lloyd, and Kia in the round. You know, she makes like a muffin for us, which actually is kind of quest relevant because it comes up later in the quest. And then muffins, and then she's like, oh, Lloyd-san, I made these muffins for you. And then Randy's like, you're gonna make your dad tear up. And then he's like, really? And then Randy says that, and then Lloyd's like, oh, you're her dad? Bitch, I'm her dad. And I love that they get little hissy fits about that. That's so cute. You also have that little quest where you go to Calvert, which is actually the first time you see Calvert, which is interesting. Anyways, I totally forgot, in the prologue, Kevin shows up, which I will say, I feel like Kevin is somebody in the writing team's OC. Like how Rohan Kishibe is Araki's OC, I think Kevin is that for somebody on the writing team for Trails. Anyways, because he just shows up in all kinds of places. Regardless, you get to show up. At first, I already talked about meeting Shirley and Sigmund. Dieter gives you a fucking car, which is awesome. You also meet Nielsen, who I think is kind of a contrived character. He sort of just exists to like refresh your memory on stuff. I think it's interesting because Nielsen is like, I think it's important that Nielsen refreshes your memory on stuff because there is a lot of shit going on in this game, and it's like a mystery focused plot, so you need to have all the clues available to you easily. Oh, fucking Campanella shows up again. I forgot. Yeah, Campanella and Aryan Road show up. You get locked into the fucking mine, and you get to meet your first cryptid. And then the Western Zamira Trade Conference is Chapter 2, folks. This game does not fuck around. One of the most important events of the game happens in Chapter 2. So instantly, we're like into the mix. I love that so much. It just takes the kitty gloves off immediately, man. The Trade Conference is just cinema. Absolute cinema. You, of course, have Kilika, Lecter, Gileath, Rocksmith. You have Chloe and Chloe and Julia. You have Toa's there as well. You also have what's his face? Olivier and Mueller. Everybody shows up in the fucking trade conference, and then I think it's really I think it really works that for the purposes of Zero and Azure, I think it's really cool that the games are unwilling to kill people off, because the just brutal slaughter that Red Constellation does against those insurgents is it's horrifying, but also it's shocking in such an entertaining way. I love that, man. I love that. Anyways, you know, you get to have the conference, which is pretty dope. You get to figure out that, you know, they're trying to you get to learn a little bit. This is the first time you actually get to learn. Maybe not the first time. This is the first time you get to see the actual issues that Calvard has within its borders that you've only sort of been like alluding to up until the past, which is, you know, racial discrimination and issues with immigration, which is, I mean, it's interesting and reasonably effective political commentary, I have to say. Everybody shows up, and then Dieter's like, "Fuck you. We're holding a referendum." It's like Brexit, basically, except, I mean, they never were like, whatever. Anyways, right now, right after that, you get the intermission chapter. This game is so fast. You're already on the intermission. There's literally nothing but pure gas in this game. You go to the fucking intermission, you get to have a bunch of time, but then also Kia goes to the castle, but she can't remember it. That's very interesting. What's going on with that? The Ouroboros has a bunch of meetings, and then SSS learns that the train has been derailed, and then you go, oh, what the fuck is up with that? And then you go everywhere, you talk to everybody, yada, yada, yada. And then Randy, at the end of end of Zero and start of Azure, Vald, he has this thing where he's just like, I don't know, he's probably gay, but like, whatever. He sees his rivalry with Wazy as Wazi is so important to him that when Wazi seemingly leaves him as the member of the gangs that they were part of and goes to the SSS, he sees it as a serious betrayal, and it leads him down dark paths. He eventually takes Gnosis and becomes a demon, and then you learn that it's Wazi who did this. Eventually this results in Randy running away. This is when the truly cinematic character writing in Trails happens. The Red Constellation shows up and beats a bunch of people up in Mines Village, and Randy's like, I gotta take care of this. This is up to me. Lloyd, everybody in the SSS, I need you guys to understand, one of my favorite kinds of characters is a dude that just is constantly tortured. Reen Schwarzer does this a lot, and that's why I like him a lot as well, but I think that it's so important and so fucking awesome that Randy Orlando as a character exists, and he I love that he values everybody in his life so much higher than himself, that he constantly in his mind, it's impossible for him to even conceptualize a world where people want Randy Orlando, people want and love Randy Orlando the person, and not Randy Orlando the Jaeger, Randy Orlando, you know, the tool. It's such a beautiful side narrative, man. I fucking love it. Randy leaves, and then they learn that fucking Crossbell City's on fire. Boom, chapter 4. We're into the end game right now. Shirley makes the fucking chandelier fall onto Sully, but then Ilya saves her, and then Ilya's brutally damaged, and this is super important. And of course, you know, Risha's fucking pissed about that, because of course she'd be. That's like her girlfriend, bro. You just actually beat the shit out of her. And then Croix starts an encounter, and he's like, this is ridiculous. We are tired of Erebonia using their power against us. We are declaring independence. Boom, done. And then Arios also leaves. He says he's now working for me. Everything moves so fast. It's like the SSS is just thrown into chaos over and over again. They can't find. I'm pretty sure this is where fucking what's her face goes missing, right? Kia. Right, in the intermission, Kia goes missing as well. Like, oh no, the intermission, Kia goes missing, and then, right, this is what happens, like, Arios takes Kia, and then they fight up, and then they find Arios and Mariabelle, and then the ball drops. You learn that Dieter and Mariabelle have been, like, sort of working on this plan for so long, and then the society shows up, and they're like, everything's ready, Queen, and then boom! Erebonia Calvert, they begin their invasion of Crossbell. The fucking bells start ringing. They make the giant barrier, and the cutscene where the half of that fortress just fucking vanishes is so crazy to me. It's crazy. And then Kia becomes the Septarian again, and then Kia goes away. it's such a heartbreaking way to go away. Like, the scene where Shizuku talks to Kia, talks to the SSS and talks about how Kia restored her eyesight and left, but Shizuku just bursts out sobbing because she knows that Kia doesn't want it. It's heart-wrenching stuff. Beautiful, beautiful writing there. And then everybody just gets arrested by Noel. And then Ario says that he killed Guy, because, of course, he says that. Boom! You're in the fragments. One of the best chapters in Trails history. I mean, literally everything happens in this chapter is pure gas. Number 1, Garcia and Lloyd break out of prison, but Garcia stays back because he feels like he deserves it. Awesome. Number 2, right after that, you know what happens? Fucking, you meet up with Zyke. He's the divine beast of Crossbell. What the hell's up with that? Step 3. After that, you meet up with Wazi, who reveals that he's also part of the Septarian. You gotta find the gaps around the force field. The entire fucking world is being covered with the Pleroma grass. This is the second best finale in Trails so far. Like, I'm being completely honest. This game's going to SSS. It's called the SSS because it's the special support section. Anyways, there's just so much awesome shit that happens, and oh my god, this track, hold up, I gotta play this fucking track. Invincible Strength, this fucking song. This song is so fucking cinema. Meister, several years before I started playing Trails, for real, introduced me to the song, and even then I was like, real recognizes real, and I put it in one of my videos, which is very funny, actually. That and the town where the lights went out. It wasn't until I heard this song, I was like, oh my god, this is the game that Meister was talking about. I'm here, dude. I'm here. I'm at Trails to Azure. It's so... I'm waffling, but it's so hard for me to put into words how much I fucking love Azure, man. Just a beautiful game. You get to go into the tree, you get to fight the different people, you get to see their histories, you get to finally learn that it was Grimwood who shot the bullet, but he didn't really want to do it. He just had to do it because it was like they'd already gotten so far in, and then the real fucking final. First of all, the final boss of Azure is a bastard. Second of all, that's not the final boss of Azure. The real final boss of Azure is the fucking post-credits scene. Holy shit! Oh my god, the credits sequence in Azure is actually gut-wrenching, man. You get to see, like, you know what happens at the end of Azure? It's not a happy ending. They say, buddy, we saved everybody. We saved Kia. Crossbell's getting occupied. Erebonia starts invading Crossbell, and then boom, game's over. Oh my god, what a setup for Crossbell. I mean, you gotta know what's happening in Crossbell. There's no way a normal human would not want to know what's happening in Crossbell at this point, right? Like, you have to know what's happening at this point. You're like, I need to know what's going on. You go to Cold Steel 1. Anyways, the post-credit scene where they show, like, some time skip stuff of, like, basically what happens in case you don't play Crossbell, but they don't tell you about what's going on, and then they show Vald as a fucking as a fucking Gralsritter member. Oh my god, I was so pissed. You don't get any information about that until 5 games after it happens. That's crazy, right? You don't get to know anything about what's going on in that sequence until fucking Trails into Reverie. That's just ridiculous. Anyways, that's all of Trails up until the end of Crossbell. So a little bit of background about my experience with Cold Steel. I was really nervous heading into the Cold Steel games because let's just say that Cold Steel has a bit of a reputation among the fandom as being somewhat divisive. There's people that love Cold Steel and there's people that hate Cold Steel. I would say that I like Cold Steel more than the average person, but probably not as much as a dedicated Cold Steel defender. However, that love is not reserved for all of the games. We are going to start off with Cold Steel 1. I'm going to be completely honest. Cold Steel 1 and Cold Steel 2, I genuinely just don't think are properly made. The main issues I have with the Cold Steel games are... Let's start off with the gameplay. The gameplay of the Cold Steel games is a little bit different. They start off with the new ordnance systems. In Zero and Azure and the Sky Arc, you had the quartz amount, and that would determine how much you could do. Here, the quartz also has, for example, you could get a quartz for, like, aerial or something like that. Aerial dust. I don't remember the names of the arts because it's been a while. But you could have a quartz for Tira or Tyrol, and that would give you special stats. and also access to that art. And then there's the cores that also give you access to the arts. I'm not really a fan of this style, which is unfortunate because this is in all 4 Cold Steel games and Reverie. I think that it makes reasonable amounts of sense. It's fine. However, I don't like it. The other gameplay mechanics in Cold Steel are, for the large part, unremarkable. Cold Steel is the first game that introduces a card game that you can play within Trails in the form of Blade. It's fine, but Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4's card game are way better. Let's talk about the real issue, which is the writing and the plot. The Cold Steel era revolves around Rean Schwarzer, for better or for worse. The problem with Rean Schwarzer is that it's really hard to sell him unless you're really good at writing him. The way that I interpret Rean Schwarzer as a character is that he's a guy who's, I mean, if you listed out his qualities, it would feel like one of those, hey guys, this is my Jujutsu Kaisen Osi Yuto Kotsu style things, where like, he has a sick-ass robot that he rides around in. He uses a Japanese sword that he learned from an Eastern blade master. He's part noble, part non-noble, so he can sort of get around that thing. It's a whole issue. But I think what makes it compelling is that unlike the average light novel protagonist who's really overpowered, he actually has a decent amount of pushback. He's more like Lelouch Lamperouge from Code Geass than he is like Sung Jin-woo from Solo Leveling. Because a character like Sung Jin-woo never really faces any adversity after his first encounter and just goes killing everybody. Whereas, in Lelouch and Rean both have to deal with a lot of pushback. They're both extremely powerful characters, but they're in a world that does not care about how strong they are and will constantly outpace them at every turn. I think that's interesting, but it's really poorly implemented in CS1 and CS2, because Rean really just gets glazed day in, day out, and then gets his ass beat. He doesn't really have a lot going for him in CS1 and CS2, because he's not really done much yet. But people still act like he's done a lot and that he's like the coolest dude ever already. So it's like it's a little off. By the time he hits CS3 and CS4, when they're glazing him, it's like, yeah, dude, that's fucking Rean Schwarzer. That's Valamar's Awakener. We know that motherfucker is the GOAT. The second main issue with early Cold Steel specifically is that the cast is extremely bloated. Sky FC, for example, has 8 playable characters. SC has 16 playable characters. Zero and Azure both have 8 playable characters, which is one of the most awesome things about those games, is that you don't have a shit ton of playable characters that you don't know what to do with. This game has like 16 playable characters, so we're not going to talk too much about it. However, Cold Steel 1 starts you off with Class 7, which is a ton of characters that you get introduced to in the same manner. Trails in the Sky, for example, you have a lot of characters, but they sort of rotate in and out a bit more gracefully. You have Olivier and Mueller, who are from Erebonia. You have Jin, who's part of the Bracer Guild, and Jin, Agate, Shara, and Annalise, who are part of the Bracer Guild, and also have different parts of their past, and also are related to the members of Ouroboros in different ways, in SC, for example. And then you have Chloe, who's part of the Royal Guard, stuff like that. In Cold Steel, 90% of your party members are just Class 7. You have the 7 guys from Class 7. You have Eusis, Machias, Fee, Laura, Emma, Elliot, Gaius. That's 7 characters, 8 with Rean. And then you also get Crow and Milliam to get 10, 11 with Sarah. That's just way too many characters. And this would be fine if they had enough chance to establish themselves as different. A lot of characters in Cold Steel from old Class 7 really don't get a lot of time to themselves, or just don't feel really authentically integrated into the world. It's like in Persona 5, where people complain about in Persona 5, the Phantom Thieves don't really talk to each other that much, except for like Ryuji and An talk to each other a decent amount. In this case, you don't really see like Fee and Elliot, Gaius and Laura. They don't seem talking that much with each other. It just feels like they're all connected to Rean, but not necessarily connected to each other. Machias and Eusis are connected. Milliam and Crow are connected to some degree. Milliam and Eusis are connected. There's like a couple of connections, but there's not like a broad overarching connection the way that there is in the other games, which is odd because they're in the same faction together. Let's stop talking about the overall issues and let's start talking about the prologue. I really like the prologue. I like the flash forward prologues because I feel like they add a lot of interesting gameplay to it. The flash forward to Gorelia Fortress is genius. I think it's cool that they reused the whole Crow and Milliam aren't there in the prologue, but they are there in the actual game. I'm pretty sure that's like Kia's doing. The way that Azure and Zero, I think that this is why there's no Reverie. So in between Sky and Crossbell, which are relatively disconnected arcs, there's Reverie. I mean, there's a third, which is sort of like it's like a finishing up the arc, giving you some teasers for the next arc thing. Between Cold Steel 4 and Daybreak, there's Reverie, which is a much better version of third chapter. The reason I think they very smartly didn't put one of those games between Azure and CS1 is that Azure, Zero, CS1, and CS2 takes place around the same time. This is most apparent. CS1 and CS2 are a little bit further up in the timeline than Azure and Zero, but this is the most apparent when you see the fact that CS1 and CS2 are constantly crossing over with the shit that's happening in Crossbell. CS1 and CS2 focus on the eastern side of the country of Erebonia, and I think that's really interesting. When you start the game, it's kind of frustrating to me that Cold Steel 1 feels like a game that is afraid to truly be a Trails game. You can see that at the time that Cold Steel came out, the dog to beat was Persona 4. And I think that Cold Steel sort of embraced that school thing to make it seem like, you know, sort of like Persona 4, or make it a little bit easier to get into. I feel like that's part of why Zero and Azure also had the romance mechanics. I'm not a fan. Also, you see the environment design in these games, it's very reminiscent of games like Xenoblade and other JRPGs that are very large in scope. Like, go to Nord and tell me that that shit is not Xenoblade inspired. The first chapter, I think, is okay at introducing, at the very least, the characters. Uses and Machias, you know, get mad at each other, yada yada, whatever. Alyssa and Reen do that stupid fucking thing. The field studies are kind of boring, but they make sense. I think the overarching plot of CS1 being that it's a game that the first half of the CS arc focuses on the divide between commoners and nobles in Erebonia, and I think that that's interesting because you get to play a character that's sort of a commoner, sort of a noble. He's technically just a noble, but he doesn't really know, and nobody else knows, so they treat him as such. I think it's interesting. The quests are quite slow, especially the Thor's quests. I don't mind the quests that you do on your field studies because they all take place in different places and have different reasons for existing. What I do mind are the quests at Thor's because they're often just like within a very small group of people and they're kind of repetitive at times. It's fine. I like the fact that you go through the place, you meet characters like, for example, in the first chapter, you're in the nature park that's like being taken over, and then Claire shows up and saves you. You get to learn more about Claire. Yeah, you head to Berea Hard, and then Machias gets put into prison, and you're like, oh, this noble shit gets real, man. And then you have to, you know, save him out, break him out. You learn that Eustace is not that much of a curmudgeon. You head to, chapter 3 is Nord, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, chapter 3 is Nord, and then you get to meet all the people of Nord. You learn the history that Nord has with Erebonia. I think that's a big one of the successes of Cold Steel as a whole, is that it feels like Erebonia is a little bit realized enough for a continent that is for a country that's so fucking big. Azure and Zero make a very realized and real feeling Crossbell, but at the end of the day, their job is much easier than Daybreak or Cold Steel because the country that they are trying to make feel real is so much smaller that it's like, yeah, dude, of course it feels real. Your place is like a tenth of the size. I like riding on the horses in the Highlands. It's very Gower Plain reminiscent. It's fine. I like it. I like it. It's fun. I've long held that every single video game needs like a skateboard or an equivalent. And what I mean by that is there needs to be some kind of tick that you can use while you're moving around so that you're not just walking around holding forward. This is why I feel like games like Final Fantasy XIV, especially in the early going, are super boring because there's nothing to do except just walk and maybe jump. But jumping isn't gonna do any fucking thing. I feel like many games should have a skateboard. These games have the skateboard in the form of horses and bikes, which I think is pretty cool. You also get to meet the Imperial Liberation Front. These guys are really, they're a mixed bag. C is obviously a fucking knocked it out of the park 10 out of 10 edition. Gideon is interesting because he has some crossover with Azure and he dies, and so you get to learn more about him. But the other two, I mean, they don't really do that much. The lady becomes one of Wazi's squires, if I remember correctly, which is cool, but like, I mean, who cares? Also, Falcom, we gotta talk, dude. what the fuck is up with the age gap stuff? Listen, I don't mind age gap, you know. I don't sometimes it can feel a little problematic, but you know, it's art. You gotta do what you gotta do. But they really use age gap a whole lot across this series, to the point where it gets a little uncomfortable. The only time where like a younger character isn't shown to have like an older romantic interest is like Ren and Kia, which I'm thankful for. But like there's Agate and Tita in Sky, there's Agnes and Van in Daybreak, there's Elise and Reen, which is especially weird in here, and also like Milliam and Altina and Reen, and it's like, listen, if any of these were in isolation, I would be fine with it, but when you put them all together in the same series, it gets a little much. Also, at this point, this is when you go to, what's it called? You get to go to Heimdall, which is the capital city. I love the trams. I love the way that Heimdall feels. The architecture of Erebonia really is distinct from that of Crossbell and Liberal, which I really, really appreciate, because Liberal is like this old-timey, you know, like fantasy bar style situation. Zero and Azure and Crossbell, which is the super advanced, like, you know, concrete jungle city, except for like Armorica village and stuff like that. But Erebonia is like, you can tell that this country was built on old money. Like, it's really cool to see that they're able to vary the visual style enough to make it feel like that. Throughout this game, you get to see Emma's like weirdness, and you get to go like, what the fuck's up with her? She goes yellow eyes mode. It's interesting. You get to beat the fucking bone dragon, which is the dragon in CS2's remains or whatever. It's a little oddly set up. I don't really like that. It feels like they made CS1, CS2, and then they were like, we made CS2 because we had to make the sequel to CS1. The games did well, but we don't really like where they went, and they really decided to change a lot of things up for CS3 and CS4, which I'm very thankful for, because, not to spoil too much, I fucking love CS3 and CS4. Anyways, I really like the fact that the game ends on such an interesting cliffhanger, where C's revealed to be Crow. I totally did not see that shit coming whatsoever, by the way. I did not see that shit coming at all. And then he kills Gileath, and I was like, there's no fucking way they're gonna kill Gileath. A big thing with the death of Gileath is that realization that Trails is so unwilling to kill off characters that I was just so, like, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. And even if Trails was willing to kill off characters, I was like, they put a lot of time into building Gileath up. I don't think they're going to Game of Thrones style kill this guy off before he gets to do anything. I think he's going to be an important part of the next couple games, even if he does die now, or looks like he dies now. I will say the fact that he's missing for almost all of CS2 is pretty cool. And so it does feel like he's actually gone, even if he's not dead. Olivier, I love Olivier. I mean, he's one of my favorite characters in the series. I'm sure that a lot of people love Olivier. He felt like such a freak in FC, but like he grows on you so much. Oh my god, the way that the culture is changing to be more modern in CS1 is so fucking fascinating, with the introduction of rock music and how that's played up for the student council event and the stuff. You get taken on what's it called? Viscount Arcade meets up and you get taken on the Courageous, which is cool because the Courageous, if you remember, I'm pretty sure the Courageous' engine was supplied to Erebonia in SC. That was actually a big plot point in SC. And then after that, you get to learn about the Saxon Iron Mine. You go into the mine, everything happens, and then you get to go home, meet up with a bunch of people, and then boom, everything breaks out. There's fucking Gundams on the streets, folks. There's Gundams on the streets. What is going on? And then Valimar wakes up and takes you to home. I think it's a great way to end the game, honestly. Saline also gets introduced reasonably well here. I will say, these games look really fucking weird. CS3 and CS4 onwards are gorgeous. No issues. FC all the way to Azure are like stylized enough that I can sort of let it go, and at least the background environments are great. Here, it's this sort of like middle ground. Like Reen's hair looks like seaweed. It just looks really odd. But I'm not gonna talk too much shit about that. It's fine. You know, they did what they could. Cold Steel 1. You know what? I'm gonna be moving Sky up. Cold Steel 1, I feel like, is a game that probably deserves the B tier. I really don't like how it feels modular and not properly connected to the rest of the series, and it's a little bit ashamed of truly being a Trails game. The cool thing is that CS2 is way less afraid of being a Trails game, but it fucking sucks at setting up the next game in the series. I'm gonna say it, like, Cold Steel 2, a big, huge part of Trails is continual story writing. There needs to be consistency between point A and point B. because characters that show up in FC are going to make their return for the first time in like 10 years in CS3, and you're gonna have to make sure that it's consistent with how they were written in the first games. The way that this game handles the Black Records fucking sucks so bad. The Black Records situation needs to be canon, but it's New Game Plus only. That's unacceptable. Straight up, it is not okay that you put that in the New Game Plus. I know it might seem like a small thing that I'm getting too mad about. I don't think it is. It's like seriously a big issue. Like you're heading into CS3, you're gonna be spoiled on something that you didn't get to see in CS2, which is actually kind of cool. You get to learn that Thomas is a fucking part of the Gralsritter, and you get to learn all that shit. I really don't think that this is good. The overarching plot of the Civil War is interesting enough that I think it makes sense. You know, Olivier handles the West Erebonia because the CS1 takes place in East Erebonia. You handle a bunch of shit there. You get to meet a bunch of people, and then you get to see like Ouroboros takes what's his face to the Grawl. Is it the Grawl? Is the Grawl showing up here? So I sort of kept the enemies of the game discussion away because I feel like that's really more suited for CS2. Because you fight them a fucking ton. So this game sees the Imperial Liberation Front, or what is left of it, that being exactly Crow and sort of Vita, because I'm pretty sure she's a Crow's witch, so she's like hanging out with him. Plus Ouroboros, which would be Duvali, McBurn, who's fucking awesome. I love McBurn, but he doesn't really get his time in the sun in this game. He gets the aura in this game. He doesn't really get his time in the sun in this game. And then you also see, you know, Duke Cayenne. He's like, he's spearheading this whole thing. I'm gonna be honest here. Duke Cayenne is a really dog shit villain, and I was pretty sure that they were not gonna keep him as the total villain for the rest of the game. But he still doesn't really succeed as a good villain. I don't really think that's good. Anyways, yeah, the Duke Cayenne is basically like a rerun of the Alchemist stuff from Azure, and I'm not really a fan. I like Crow. I like Crow. I fucking love Crow. Crow's one of my goats. I like Vita. I love Duvali because she's very funny. McBurn is awesome. Milliam, I mean, her outfit is really ass, but, you know, we'll make it work. Speaking of outfits, Fee, girl, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? Fee Clausel's CS2 outfit is maybe the worst Trails outfit I've ever seen in my goddamn life. It's really ass. Anyways, the relationship between Rean Schwarzer and Crow Armbrust is really well developed across these two games. I don't really like going into like canon discussions or whatever, but like for me, I feel like Crow and Rean are like those guys should be fucking, like they should be boning all day. Regardless, I really think that it's a great emotional anchor for the game. Rean wants to put an end to this war, not just because it's war and war sucks, but also because he knows that Crow is being used and that he doesn't want Crow to be like this, and that he wants to make Crow free from the clutches of all the, you know, outside influences that are at this point taking over him. Because he's killed, the way Crow sees it, he's at this point, he has killed Osborne, so like what the fuck is left? Anyways, I love that they kill off Crow in this game, and it's actually so heart-wrenching when Crow dies. Like, you barely managed to win, and then he still fucking dies, and then he's like, and Crow's never able to graduate, and now they do bring him back in CS3 and CS4, but it's actually done pretty well, so I'm gonna let him be okay with that. The Vermilion Apocalypse shows up, yada yada yada, you beat the shit out of everything, and then boom, Gileath Osborne is alive. Grianos is dead. Rufus cut him down. He's the Jade Rook. He's the last of the Iron Bloods. Looks like Blood and Iron is back on the menu, boys. It's a great setup for CS3. And I love that Rean is so fucked up by this. He can't really be that mad at Gileath because Gileath is taking this opportunity to end the Civil War in one swoop, right? Like, when Gileath shows up, Rean's mad because Crow gave his life to kill Gileath, but now Crow is fucking dead, so what's up with that? Rean has been fighting on the same side as Gileath's people against the noble faction, but it's like, Rean is still like, this is such a robbery, like, he gave his life to kill you and you're just gonna show up again? What the fuck is up with that? And then, it's such a heart-wrenching ending, and I love it. I love it, Jerry. Rean is what I describe as a scrimblow character. There are a few characters in media that, typically male characters, that are at their most beautiful when they're just constantly going through heart-wrenching self-doubting trauma constantly. A lot of good VN protagonists fit into this. Rintaro Okabe from Steins Gate, Ushiromiya Battler from from Umineko, Takumi from 100 Line, Hajime from Danganronpa 2, and Shuichi from Danganronpa 3. Even characters like the main character of New Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. A lot of Dante from the Divine Comedy. There's a lot of characters that fit into this. I think Reen Schwarzer is a great example of one of these characters. Reen, because he's so well established as like a cool guy with a lot of really strong powers, it's maybe not fun, because that makes him sound psychotic, but it's cool to see him just get dicked on over and over again, because it's like, he's not perfect. He's going to fail, and he's going to fail over and over again, and it's going to kill him and eat him up as a person, and we get to see that and how that changes him, and how he's barely hanging on to it, and I think that's fucking awesome. That being said, the continuity stuff means that I can't put this game much higher. Moving on to CS3. This is going to be a fucking contentious ass take. I truly believe this. For me, the exploration of Reen Schwarzer's character is one of the most important things of Cold Steel, because it so heavily revolves around him. And I think there's no game that does this better than Cold Steel 3 exactly. Cold Steel 3 is a fucking crazy game, dude. First of all, I love that there's a little bit of a gap between CS2 and CS3. We know that Gileath is back. He's taken over the Empire now, like fully, pretty much. And he's like exerting his will like crazy. Everybody on the losing side has been subjugated, plus Reen, and they're basically being forced to do his bidding. Olivier did not know that he's alive, so he's fucked. He's like out of the picture for the most part. Like, he's been ousted as one of the power players in the country. I love the fact that Reen Schwarzer has to become an instrument for colonization, basically. Like, it's so awesome to see Reen having to do these fucking terrible things, dude. Like, Reen's still doing his best in, like, Northumbria trying to save people, but you can tell that his heart's not in it and that he hates it, and he sees himself as just a total monster. And I think that that's such a great way to set up this game. Because Reen is, at this point, Reen is a totally defeated character. He hasn't done anything yet. He's like, you know, the CS1 and CS2 are chronicling Reen Schwarzer and Class 7 and Thor's total failure at, and just generally the reformist factions, total failure at distancing the Oliver faction, the Olivier faction, sorry, at distancing themselves from Gileath Osborne's schemes and falling into his trap all again. Like, they totally outdid him. I really, really love the start of this game. You go to Leaves. Reen's a teacher now. He wears that stupid ass fucking pair of glasses that he really thinks is gonna make him look better, but he's not. I love that little bit. And then you meet Michael, you meet Toa, you meet Professor Schmidt, you meet Aurelia, and you meet Randolph goddamn Orlando. Actually, just a genius stroke to put Randy, an already well-established character, and one used to dealing with a main character in Trails, in one of the front seats in this game. Randy as a teacher is so authentic as a person. It feels like it's what he was born to do. I'm gonna be completely honest. One of the few things I really dislike about the way that Randy is handled is that he goes back to the SSS at the end of CS4 and like throughout Reverie. I think that Randy is a great teacher. I think it's cool that they've established a branch campus and they've like split it up into different classes, and Aurelia has to take care of it. And Aurelia, she's doing her best at this point. She's been totally ousted because she was part of the Noble faction along with Bardius, and so she's like, I've just got to do whatever the fuck I can. She still has a ton of aura, but she just has to do what she can. This game fixes so much of what was wrong with CS1. Remember when I talked about how the cast of CS1 is really bloated? CS3 still has to include new Class 7 because it has an obligation to its predecessor, but the new characters in this game are so few and far between, and I think it works so fucking well. You have Reen, Yuna, Kurt, Altina, Ash, Yusei. That's 6 characters. Boom, you're done. I think that works really well. You also have like Randy and Agate and Tita, but they're like partially. They're not there for like the big part of the game. Also, how could I forget? Agate and Tita show up I love Tita, and I was like, they're definitely going to develop her more. I think that her showing up in CS3 and CS4 is awesome. It also develops Agate and Tita's relationship. The way I feel about their relationship is, it's fine. I mean, I can tell that there's no, like, you know, power struggle there. It's not like, you know, Agate's not, like, using his, like, age and or authority to, like, manipulate Tita. Like, he cares for her a lot, so it's fine. But that girl is gonna have a fucking hard time convincing him to make the final step. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it's so fucking ingenious. The way that this playable cast is set up is so goddamn smart. You have Kurt, Kurt is probably the weakest of the new Class 7 members. He's actually very strong in terms of gameplay, but he's very weak in terms of his overarching role in the story. He basically is sort of meant to serve as his goals are similar to like Laura, but he has like an inferiority complex about his role in the in Mueller's family. Yuna, she fucking hates Rean, and I think that makes a lot of sense because she's part of Crossbell. At the end of CS2, I forgot, at the end of CS2, you get to see Risha and Lloyd, and Rean has to fucking beat up Risha and Lloyd, and that's sort of how you get to see and figure out the fact that Rean's gonna be doing a bunch of bullshit while he's under the thumb of Gileath between CS2 and CS3. And part of that is beating up the SSS. The SSS managed to take over and win, but, you know, it makes sense, because, like, they're now in hiding. They're, like, running over Crossbell. They're fucking fugitives. What the hell? Arios has dropped Shizuku off in Reverie because he's so goddamn afraid of her getting hurt. I think it's awesome. Rean Schwarzer, as a character, is so beloved as to be sickening at times in CS1 and CS2. I think establishing the fact that there is a world out there that fucking hates Rean Schwarzer, and it's for totally valid reasons, is so important, because otherwise, like, everybody would just be constantly glazing Rean Schwarzer. Now, Yuna still, like, feels like Rean Schwarzer's a cool guy because he saved her, but that doesn't cloud the fact that he's a part of the occupation of Crossbell, and that he's a part of the oppressors. He's enabling the oppressors. Part of that's because he doesn't really know what the fuck else to do, but he is doing it, and actively so. Like, he could just give up the power of the Awakener and just not use Valimar at all and just let the government take Valimar, but he cares about his bond with Valimar so much that he hangs on to it. The third one, Altina, it's a narrative tie-in with the 13 Factories and Millium as well. I think that's well handled. I think it's a solid idea, and it really comes to a head at the end of this game. The rest join you later, so I'm going to talk about later. Ash and Muse. I love the new branch academy for Thors. I think that it's cool to see that with the times, the curriculum for Thors has become much more militaristic because it's under the influence of Gileath now. Main campus of Thors, they're like full in on military strats because they need soldiers for Gileath's master plan. The branch campus is still under the control of Olivier, so he's able to sort of worm his way into making it so that there's like a little bit of leeway there. So there's Toa's finance class, for example, military finance class. It's still very military focused because, I mean, Thors is a military academy, but it's not like fully like you are going to be joining the fucking army and killing people for the glory of Great Erebonia. I like that there's consistent Panzer Soldat trainings and that the other characters are going to get Panzer Soldats. I think that's cool. It's a little weird that Altina, like, we get, like, Altina's Panzer Soldat, and it's, like, a big thing, and then she almost never gets to use it, but whatever. You could slowly meet up with the remnants of Class 7 again. I really wanted to see their new designs one by one, but it's sort of spoiled in the opening where we're up against Duvaline. You get to see everybody's new designs. It's fine. It's not too big of a deal. Anyways, Lecter. Lecter is sort of, he does play a big role in CS1 and CS2, but he plays a way bigger role in CS3 and CS4, because he's now like the Ironbloods are now like, boom, they're like front and center as like the people that are fucking up Erebonia and the rest of the world to benefit Gileath's plan. And you can see that Erebonia is not taking this calmly because there's a lot of disturbances around Erebonia, and Rean has to, like, you know, quell the disturbances, and he's basically strong-armed into taking this contract and going there as part of the field studies. I like the train. I'm gonna be honest, I like the train. That's all I'm gonna say about the Dareflinger. I like the train. Anyways, you go to St. Arc. I like that this game, this game looks fucking gorgeous, first of all. I will say, getting used to the UI in this game was very, 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 very difficult. The UI in CS1 and CS2 is more in line with what you have in the rest of the series. CS3 and CS4 are more designed for console, and as soon as I switched to controller, I eventually did get used to it, and I do like it. But I will say, I mean, it's the first thing that I remember when I played this game, and you're not launched into the combat in the premonition or whatever. It's like, oh wow, this UI is way different. Oh, I forgot to speak about the new mechanics. The orders are fucking broken. I mean, divine song formation, kill a divine song formation, and then you just mash, like what? You just mash, what's it called? The life draining skill that's like bugged 25 times and kill the final boss. Listen, it's unbalanced, but it's still fun, and I think that it's a cool idea with the BP and stuff and how the follow-up works with the combat links. I legitimately don't give a fuck about combat links. I don't really think that they're that interesting of a mechanic, but I think that the way that they're integrated into the order system makes them a lot more compelling overall. Anyways, I forgot this thing. This game also like starts to bring in the fact that the alumni of Thor's are at this point all doing their own thing. Some of them are working in the army. Some of them are like Patrick are just trying to manage the house. Some of them have launched like business endeavors, and it's all sort of like you get to see them across the course of the game, which I think is interesting. During St. Arc, you get to meet fucking Shirley Orlando. This game has such a star-studded cast. I love it, Jerry. I love how many... This game is the perfect balance of a ton of characters that are really important and not like a Reverie style 72 playable characters that you're gonna have to deal with. Like, sometimes it gets a little bit much. Anyways, you also get to meet Michael, who's a total fucking tool. I hate the guy. I get that he's supposed to be like, reluctant, but like he doesn't really make that clear a lot, whatever. Anyways, you also get to meet Rutger, the boss of Zephyr, and you get to like talk a little bit, and then everybody's like, you get to see the 15 broken archaisms in it, which is kind of a retrain of what Sigmund did in Azure, where you see all those dead monsters, which is kind of cool. I like that this is when Roselia and the village of Erin first like make their like presence fully felt. Like, you know that there's witches, but you don't really know like the broader scope of it. You get to see Roselia in the fucking thing. Also, Reen's got the thing where like he can't use spirit unification really easily in this game because of like how like tumultuous he is, which I think is interesting. You also, this is chapter 1, and you get fucking assaulted by 2 members of Ouroboros in the form of Duvalie and Shirley, which I think is so cool. Like, it's so early on in the game, and they're willing to deliver important things. You also get to see, oh my god, I totally forgot, this is also like the retrain of the Hamel incident from FC and SC, where like the Hamel got fucking massacred by the Erebonian army. I think that it's so cool that this is probably like, I love Zero, as you can see, it's up here. I'm okay with SC and Cold Steel. I've recently finished Daybreak. I actually think it's relatively decent, but there is no first game that is as good at just, taking off the kitty gloves as CS3 is. Now, is that partially because it has the advantage of having 2 games to back it up, and is Horizon, as a result, probably going to be somewhat the same? I mean, yeah, but it doesn't make it any worse. I love that Agate tells you about Joshua and Louvet. You get to learn about Karin and all that shit. And then Reen's like, what the fuck's up with that? Why do I have information about that? And Shirley and Duvalie, you also meet Shirley and Duvalie in in Hamel, around Louvet's grave. And then Randy shows up, who's a fucking badass. And then Leo, Zeno, and Rutger show up. And then Fee's like, what the fuck? Why are you alive? You were dead. And then Zeno and Leo is like, reasons. And then, and it's like, what the fuck? And then they just leave. And then it's like, and then Enea says some whack shit about the Phantasmal Blaze plan starting. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? There's also this just beautiful scene where Agate and Tita leave some flowers from Estelle, Joshua, and Ren from the grave. And they're like, I hope these guys can once come and see it. And I think it's nice to see moments like that. It's really important. I love Reen's character as a teacher is so different from his character as a student. Reen as a student is this like hot-headed, brash kid who's just gonna do whatever he needs to do what he thinks is right. Reen as a teacher is so much more like he's like, he cares. It really shows his character as a person. Reen Schwarzer has a constant bad habit of self-sacrifice. Reen is completely and totally willing to make his life worse if it means making other people's lives better, because he sees his life as inherently holding less value than other people's lives. You can see this in the way that he teaches versus he learns, because when he's a student, he's willing to throw himself into danger, but when his students throw themselves into danger, he really can't say, he really gets mad at them because he cares about them so much. It's so cool. Fuck. You head to chapter 2, and we're already heading into Crossbell, folks. Like, it's crazy to me that this game is so fast. There is no breaks. It feels like Azure in how, like, quickly things move between point A, point B, point C. You're just going from point to point, but everything has been set up. Machias tells you that the new field studies, they're probably going to be meeting up. You know, you get to talk to everybody, and you also meet Cedric, who's been going sicko mode over the past years, because he gets tempted by the Ishmelga or whatever, the Vermilion Apocalypse. It tempts him and shows him power, and also makes him go a little crazy, which I think is really cool. There's this just feeling of Crow just missing in the game, and I think that that's also really interesting. Vita survives, but obviously Crow dies, so like you think Reen is really torn up about Crow dying, because he's lived like 2-3 years without Crow. Kurt has a thing with Cedric, which it's kind of poor. Again, Kurt I think is the weakest of New Class 7, but Kurt's thing with Cedric is that, you know, Kurt is supposed to protect Cedric because he's one of the Muellers, one of the Vanders, and Cedric is one of the royal family, so he's gonna be like that. Then Reen and Machias, they talk about going to Crossbell. You go to meet Crossbell, and you get to see. There's only one thing that I don't really like about the new design for Crossbell, is that I think that it would have been really cool if they kept the way that Crossbell is shaped exactly the same, so that people could feel like they were immediately at home and wouldn't even need to look up a map. But like the Eastern quarter is like totally changed. Like, holy shit, it's completely different. There's also like the back alley is like now integrated into the entertainment district. It's not a big deal. I love going to Crossbell, because going back to Crossbell from Erebonia is really important, because throughout Cold Steel 1 and 2, you get told what happens in Crossbell, but you don't get to see what happens in Crossbell until the end of CS2, when like Lloyd and Risha are like running away. This is where you get to see. I love that this is great show not tell storytelling. I love that. You get to go to Crossbell, you get to see what all is going on. Yuna's like, you know, depressed because the SSS isn't here anymore. Sharon also fucking leaves, I'm pretty sure. No, Sharon leaves at some... Oh, no, Sharon leaves right at the end of this game, I remember. And she wears, like, the worst outfit of all time. Yeah, you get to meet with Tio. Tio and Randy meet up. They're like... He's like, hey, Tio Tot. And they're like, oh, that's so cute. It's cool to see... I'm going to talk a little bit more about Randy. I think it's really cool to see how Randy, as a character, has matured. He's done his character development. Randy is not the brash, self-hating guy that he was in Azure and Zero. Not the guy that feels like he doesn't belong in the SSS. He knows that he belongs, but he's still been taken away from it, and he's doing the best that he can. And the way that Randy and Reen address each other is very cool. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Randy and Reen call each other, Randy calls Reen Randolph. He doesn't call him Randy. Every single other person in Zemuria, for the most part, that's like knows Randy, calls him Randy. That's fucking Randy, dog. It's not Randolph Orlando. What the fuck is that? But the reason is that, you know, Reen beat the shit out of Lloyd at the end of CS2, and like, you know, Reen's partially responsible for the occupation of Crossbell, and so they don't really get along well together. Eventually, they sort of mend that gap between their relationship, and I think that it's done really well. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Anyways, Governor General Rufus Alberea, total prick in charge of Crossbell. They're like, hey, handle this shit for us, and he's like, okay, sure. You head to Orcus Tower, and like usual, when you're at Orcus Tower, that bitch is getting attacked. This time, it's McBurn and Campanella. I will say, they totally nerfed the shit out of Campanella after FC and SC. He doesn't, like, turn you into a pickle anymore, which is totally cringe. I love that he turned you into a fucking pickle. I really wish they kept that. If in SC, he doesn't turn you into a pickle, I'm gonna be so goddamn mad. Because that was actually that was such a stupid ability that I loved so much in SC. I hope the remake makes it so he still turns you into that shit. You see the new ions that Ouroboros has been making to sort of, like, combat Gilead and stuff like that. At this point, this is when, like, Yuna totally goes angry mode. Like, she's yelling at it. She's like, what happened to the pride of Crossbell, you know? And it feels very real, because it is true. The pride of Crossbell has been trampled over and over. Foreign interest has been taking over that goddamn country for as long as we can remember. And there's nobody has any, like, nobody in charge of anything has any empathy towards Crossbell at all. It's so sad. Crossbell's like this punching bag for Western Zemuria, and it's just, it's so heart-wrenching to see. Very well done in that event. And then Lecter gives him, like, the overall thing. It turns out Randy and the special support section have been, like, birdcaged. And so he's like, Reen, I need you to figure out what the fuck the society is doing. Kurt and Altina talk with Yuna, this is another thing. Like, remember when I said that it has a Persona 5 problem where the class members don't talk to each other? This game does not have that issue whatsoever. The class members in New Class 7 talk to each other all the time, and they all have relationships with each other that feel realized, and I think that that's really, 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 really important, and I think that that's awesome. You get to go to Stargazer Tower again, which is awesome, and Olivier shows up as his Olivier self, and that's so cute. I love that. You get to play with Olivier and Tio. The guest characters in this game are awesome. They're all like throwbacks. This game is clearly setting up for CS4/Azure, which are like the culmination of, at this point, like over a decade's worth of games. This is like this is going to be 6 games worth of build-up for this payoff, which I think is awesome. While you're heading back, Reen sees the special support section, and then I'm pretty sure Arios is also there, and he gives them like they do a fist bump in the air, and then because they're like, listen, because I think they now understand that like Reen is like a decent dude. I will say, I'm pretty sure it's because they didn't have enough time to model Lloyd and stuff, because I mean there's a shit ton of new character models in this game, so I don't blame them for not having time to model everybody. Anyways, we get to meet George again, which is fun, and he's been touring the place all over the place. George gets basically bullied by by Professor Schmidt for a while, which is fun. And now we get to see Ortis and Raquel, which I think is really fun, because you get to now understand a little bit more about Ash and Musei. Now, Musei and Ash are passed over. At this point, I'm pretty sure you've seen Ash talk to Lecter, so you're like, something's up with Ash. And Musei, I mean, she's just like, she's strange. Like, she knows a little bit too much. And so, like, I think that it's interesting to toss these characters in for a chapter that is overall a little bit, just a tad bit less eventful. I mean, you just went to Crossbell. It's going to be a hard act to follow. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you a couple more characters to get used to it. Anyways, you learned that the students of the main academy are on their way to Northumbria, which is pretty cool. And, like, there's this, like, competitive spirit between the main campus and the side campus, which I'm pretty sure every single player that's actually paying attention will know. This is not just going to stay as a rivalry. There's going to be a fucking war, and the main campus and the branch campus are going to have to fight against each other, which is pretty cool, I think. I think that's pretty cool. Anyways, you head to the place, and then there's a bunch of Jaegers around, a bunch of shit happens, and then you find out that Miriam's gone to Byronia Island to figure out what's going on. Reen meets, Rosalia again. And then you get to go there, and then Aryan Road, who showed up for the first time in Azure, shows up again, and she's about to beat the shit out of you. But then Gaius shows up, and then Azure Siegfried. Oh my god, you get to meet Azure Siegfried. Listen. You guys don't understand. If you don't understand, this is, so many people get mad about the concept of Azure Siegfried. This is total lack of genre knowledge. Cold Steel is a mecha series. I need you guys to understand this. The genre that they've chosen for Cold Steel specifically to give it a separate identity from the other games, because it is very heavily connected to Zero and Azure, so they wanted to make sure that it felt different as part of like the same broader Phantasmal Blaze Plan storyline. What you need to understand is that Cold Steel is a mecha, and it is, the Azure Siegfried shit is very clearly a callback to the Gundam Char Aznable style character. They do this every single Gundam series. I don't know if you guys, so for those who don't know, Mobile Suit Gundam, it's one of the original, big guy in a big robot about war shows, and I think that that's a great place for Trails to take inspiration from. The very first Gundam series had a masked character called Char Aznable. I haven't actually seen the full, I haven't seen 79, so I don't know too much about it. But basically, he plays like a big role throughout all of that timeline, and then they made a bunch of different timelines with like different characters and stuff, and every single one has different masked characters. Like, for example, so the very first Gundam I had this guy as the main masked guy of the series. There's also in Gundam 00, this is the main masked guy of that series. There's also a bunch of other people. There's Zex from Gundam Wing, which is what I'm watching right now. First thing you need to know, they're all hot, first of all, so that fits for Crow. But also, what a lot of people don't realize is that you're supposed to be able to, when the character shows up, there's actually 2 characters that are masked in IBO, and but they're all supposed to be obvious as fuck for the viewer. Like, it is not supposed to be it's not supposed to be like, oh my god, who is that? And also, it's obvious as fuck for everybody in the room too. Everybody who knows Crow knows that Azure Siegfried is Crow. And like, there's so much shit going on. Fucking Gileath is back from the dead. Rutger's back from the dead. Now Crow's back from the dead, but he's under somebody's control. What is going on? I love the setup for CS3. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so well set up as this game where there is just like, it feels like 400 years of plans have finally come to fruition, and you are caught in the middle of it doing your best to manage. It is so interesting to me that CS3 handles that shit. CS3 is a game where, like, it just sets up 50 billion plot points for you, and they all get set up for CS4 to handle. Great setup right here. You also get to meet another Ion and shit like that, and then, you know, right there, at the end of this chapter, Angelica heads to Crow's grave, digs him up, goes, okay, Crow's not here, something is going on. And then, George fucking kills her, presumably. I can't believe I got by this. They talk about the gnomes so much in CS1 and CS2 and CS3. That motherfucker's name is George Nome. G Gnome. His name is G Gnome. And I didn't put that shit together. I was so mad at myself for not putting that together. After I put together the entire plot of Azure from, you know, with a box of scraps in a cave, I can't believe I wasn't able to put together the fact that George Gnome is part of the gnomes. Okay, so you head to Heimdall for the next quest, and I think it's cool because, remember, in CS1, a lot of CS3 is like retreading CS1 and seeing how Reen does things differently with his knowledge. For example, Kurt has a lot of the issues that Laura has within the first couple chapters of CS1, and Reen is able to give her advice that makes it so that she's like, his mind is put at ease the same way that hers was, but she had to take some time to learn about that stuff along with Reen. CS3, instead of it being the half of class, the 2 halves of class 7 being tasked in what's it called, the 2 halves of class 7 being tasked to go over Heimdall, it's now class, the branch campus and the main campus take over different halves of Heimdall, which I think is cool. You fight these magic knights again, and then you meet the Calvardian spies. This is such a great... Right here, this is what I love about Trails, man. They start setting up shit for the next era of games. You need to understand that Daybreak 1 is still 2 full games away, and they're still giving you a little bit of thread that helps you understand what's going on. Like, you get to see that Calvert has cloaking technology with the, the Hercules units. That's cool to see, man. Anyways, you get to go, on the Wild Goose Chase, you end up in the Himmel Cemetery, and then you get to see that Angelica basically got fucking smoked out, and then you go, what the fuck is going on? Oh, I totally forgot. I will say, the voice acting for these games is all pretty much top-notch. I think it's Scottish. I love the Scottish characters in Cold Steel. Becky, I love you. You are the most awesome character in the fucking game. I love you, Becky. Keep it up. Keep it up, bestie. Anyways, right under the museum, you get to like the gate, and you go into like a catacombs. This is, mind you, like halfway through the game. I love that they do, like, this game has like 3 different things that can be considered like a final boss tier thing for a game like FC. They do it like 3 different times, and they're like, buddy, we're not done yet. We're going. Because there is a lot to cover. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Anyways, Azure Siegfried shows up. He calls Ordine, so it's like, oh, that's fucking Crow. Anyways, a bunch of shit happens, and then Ash discovers the gun on somebody else. At this point, also you get to... I like the characterization of Ash and Muse. I'm gonna be honest right here. I really do not like Muse Egret, the character. Full stop. I like Mildine Cayenne. I like Mildine Cayenne, the character, as like this, you know, like super calculating, cool grandmaster on the Airbonian side. I do not like Muse Egret. The way that she just constantly thirsts over Reen, it gets a little annoying at times. There's a summer festival that's supposed to be peaceful next day in the capital, but then it just feels off. There's just so much shit going on. You don't, like, what are the gnomes? What are the 13 factories? How is Ouroboros involved in this? What's going on? Why is Ouroboros helping out Gileath? What's up with that? What's up with the Awakeners? Like, what's going on there? Like, why are people back from the dead? What the hell happened to Crow? Why is he back from the dead and also evil again now? Isn't that fucked up? Shouldn't he be on our side by this point? What's going on with the Iron Bloods? Like, there's so many things that they set up here. I think it's awesome. I'm glazing this game, but it's cool. Right here, this is the part where Ash goes up, boom, Eugen 3 gets killed. I love that. Gilead's like, don't aim for the heart, buddy. You should go for the head. And then he's like, actually, I'm going to kill the figurehead emperor, actually. Boom! And then he kills him. The finale is so good in this game. It's unreal. I mean, the fact that the fucking Grawl of Erebos spawns and, like, Lysander shows up, Rosalia shows up, and they're like, we gotta figure something out right now. Ash is missing. We don't know what's going on. And then everybody that you've met so far shows up. Albrecht shows up. Osborne's there. Cedric's there. Duvali's there. What's his face? Milliam's there. Lecter's there. Claire's there. McBurn's there. Like, the Aryan Road, I'm pretty sure, is also there. Rutger's there. Every single person that you've met so far is at the Grawl. They're all there, folks. George is there, and he kills everybody on the fucking on the Courageous, which is crazy. And then like everybody gets killed, and then oh my god, the ending of CS3 is beautiful, because like it feels like it's setting up for a classic Trails ending where it's like, haha, Reen Schwarzer along with this group of little guys, we managed to finally beat everything. No, dude, no, this isn't happy-go-lucky as Trails in the Sky SC, buddy. This is Cold Steel 3. Shit is going to happen. People are going to die. There's going to be consequences. Now, they're not going to be permanent consequences, because Trails doesn't do permanent consequences in terms of people living and dying. They do often do permanent consequences in terms of political situations changing, but they don't do permanent consequences like that. Cedric shows up, he gets a new knight, and then you realize that it's all a ploy to kill Altina with the special sword, take her soul into it, and then start the Twilight. And it's like, oh fuck, we gotta stop that. So, you know, you're making down your way, the spiral, the Grawl of Erebos, you're going down, the track fucks so hard, dude. Like, the OST goes crazy. It's like outrageous how good the OST is at this point. Anyways, you get to the bottom, and then right at the end, you see Osborne, Albrecht, and Cedric, and then I'm pretty sure you fight Albrecht and Cedric, and you're like, okay, we're gonna beat these guys and end it. No, dude, they blow up the goddamn Courageous, kill everybody. Laura's like, fuck, what do I do? My dad's dead. Everybody there's like, oh my god, Toval. Oh, I didn't even fucking mention Toval up until this point. I will say characters like Nightheart and Toval are like a little bit hard to integrate into this, because I'm gonna be honest, Toval is a bit of an industry plant. I like Toval, but he is a bit of an industry plant. Him and Ein, I'm sorry, I don't care about your woke CD drama or whatever the fuck they're from. I don't care. Like, make Ein do something in the actual games, and then we'll talk. Anyways, like, you see everybody die, and then Milliam shows up and takes her place, and she almost dies, and she dies, well, she gets fatally wounded, and then Reen goes sicko mode, and finally uses the sword to kill the Nameless One, which spreads the curse. Oh my god, dude. And then Reen, I love this part. This scene is actually a fucking masterpiece. Hold up. So you get to see Reen in his fucked up form.
The Ebon Knight.
Huh. It's about damn time.
So that's your guy's master, huh?
And then we all start
Yes,
taking care of everybody.
that's correct.
And then they're like, oh, we got a whole
There is
ring
someone
guy.
out there that can utterly overpower me.
This is wrong. I'm sorry, McBurn, you could beat the shit out of this thing. Like, let's be
Now
realistic
6
here.
are assembled. As for the final one,
Yeah, he goes in there. Reen's being fucking held back. He's doing his best. He's so mad. The way that, like, I will say, CS3 and CS4, like, pre-Reverie, this engine, it works reasonably well, but the characters are not super emotive. The way that they animated Valimar here is so well done. And then Gilead delivers this cold-ass line. Hold up.
To write the end to this wretched...
Yeah, right here.
Now, Reen, let us begin. Together we shall write the end to this wretched fairy tale. In ink, black as despair.
Boom. Roll credits! Is that not the craziest shit you've ever seen? Like, that's outrageous, dude. This game fucks, and I refuse to take anybody's criticism that thinks that this game doesn't absolutely fuck. You guys probably like Sky 3rd, where they try to pretend that Louve's that where they try to pretend that like Luve being in the mask isn't the most obvious shit ever. Like Luve in the mask is Azure Siegfried, but done poorly. That's what I'm gonna say. Moving on to CS4. CS4 has a really tall act to follow. I'm gonna be completely honest here. I don't think CS4 is as good as CS3. In fact, I think that it actually does quite fall short on a couple of key aspects. But I feel like a lot of those just comes down to the fact that it really has a lot riding on its shoulders. Even with the works partially being dispersed onto Reverie, CS4 really has a lot of shit that it has to cover. It's got a lot of ground to cover. Like I don't think anybody's gonna dispute that fact. But the first like 2 chapters of the game are actually peak cinema. Like the part where like Reen's gone, everybody shows up in Aaron Village, they're all sobbing because they love Reen so much. So far, you've sort of heard how Reen's self-destructive tendencies have an adverse effect on the people that he loves. Now you get to feel it firsthand. When Reen is gone, it's like Reen is gone, Milliam's gone, so Eustace, oh my god, I actually cried. In the prologue, when you show up in Aaron Village, and like Eustace is sitting on that bench, and he just, it's like he's broken. I actually started crying because it was so heartbreaking to see him he just couldn't function because his little Bokeh Sukomi act with Milliam was like, that was part of their repartee. That was like the thing that they did with each other. That was what their bond was, and now he's never gonna get to do it again. And because he's such a tsundere, Eustace never really got to tell Milliam that he like actually loved her or cared for her, regardless of whether it was romantic or not. That's the Eustace Milliam thing. I'm like, whatever. Again, it's another one of those age gap things that I'm like not too much of a fan of, but you do what you can. Regardless, the intro to this game is so fucking good. First of all, elevator down, because this is a callback to Crossbell. So you get to see a bunch of the characters, including Estelle and Kia and Joshua and whatnot. They're breaking into the Orcus Tower to figure out what the fuck's going on. They meet Black Albrick, they meet Maria Bell, who we haven't seen in a while, and Claire. And then so they leave, and then they learn that a bunch of shit's going down. And then finally, I will say, that's actually one of the things I actually forgot to bring up. I'm sorry, there's so much to these games that it's hard to bring up a lot. I really am not too much of a fan of how Cold Steel and onwards don't really have super recognizable motifs. Maybe this is a Fates player take, and I might have already brought this up, but the fact that the musical motifs in Sky are so recognizable really appeals to me. Pretty much every Sky track is gonna do one of the Sky motifs. They're either gonna do they're gonna do that. They're gonna do something from that, right? They're gonna call out some part of that, and it's all like a call forward to the Hollow Light of the Sealed Land, which I think is cool. And this idea sort of persists through SC and onwards. Azure and Zero, they're a little bit less recognizable, but they still have them at some degree. And then CS onwards, they sort of dumped it, and the OST of Trails sort of starts taking a plummet around here because I'm pretty sure they had some crazy staff turnover on the music department, which I really think is a stupid idea when you're making a JRPG. Like, JRPGs are known for good OSTs. I get that you have like a established fan base, but like you gotta make sure the OSTs are banging. Anyways, everybody gets separated, and it's only the first 3 members of New Class 7 that are here. Like the Ash and Muse are still missing. Randy's here. I love that Randy's here. Can I just say that? Original Class 7 is here, sure, whatever. Randy, Orlando. I think that Falcom knew that Randy was maybe their strongest character that they've ever written, and they were like, we need to make sure that this character can act as an anchor for people that care about Crossbell, because there are a lot of strong characters in Crossbell. I don't think anyone is nearly as strong as Randy Orlando. Like, I don't think any character is as well established and has the sort of gravity to them that the way that Randy does. And I think that the way that they made it so that Randy was present throughout all of the second half of Cold Steel on the Erebonius side, as opposed to sort of behind the scenes stuff that the rest of the SSS is doing, ingenious. Anyways, you finally, you learn that Reen and Gileath are father and son, and then Yuna, she gets pissed off and she's like, why are you guys moping around? Don't you care about Reen? We need to get that motherfucker back. And then Aurelia, Bardius, Vita, which is crazy, and then also Mildine are there. Is Crow? Where the fuck is Crow? I'm pretty sure Crow's like doing his own thing right now at this point, and then you eventually go back and grab him. Because I remember, because at the end of CS3, Crow jumps down, he regains his memories. I don't know, I forget exactly when you get Crow, because you do recruit Crow in this game, and I use the shit out of Crow in this game because he's really good, because he's got a good art stat. They also nerfed a lot of the strats coming from CS3 to CS4, but they also give you Gaius, who's really good at delay strats. Unfortunately for them, I just played the game on like an easier difficulty, so I just had a good time. I just mashed Blade Dance with Kurt and then did like Whirling Steel 6 times and everybody just died because you get a ridiculous amount of craft points in this game. Anyways, you know, they get familiarized with the locale of Aaron, yada yada. They meet up, and then a lot of this game is also bringing back the branch campus people, which I think is cool. It's like you're building back the family. Like they're sort of family to each other. Like they lived with each other for a long time. They sort of mean a lot to each other, so they worked on it together. Also, Gilbert fucking shows up, which is base. Love Gilbert. Gilbert, yeah, no, that they beat everybody, yada yada. You know, you go back to Aaron and then you tell Rosa everything. You learn that the Imperial Defense Force also. They call it the IDF all the time in this game, which is a little on the nose. It's a little on the nose to make the bad guys be called the IDF, but you know, I respect it regardless. Anyways, so the Great Twilight has started, right? Like with the start of this, there's pleroma grass growing everywhere. The whole continent is fucking plagued by cryptids. The spirit rains are all out of whack. The higher elements are active all over the place, and also everybody's like getting like brainwashed and shit. So it's like all weird. You know, you go to Milsante and Raquel, everybody meets Ash, even though he's like a fugitive. They're like, no, there's no way this guy could have done that. And I think it's cool that they do that. Ash, oh, I'm pretty sure Ash like escapes by himself from the Pantagruel, right? Right. They're on their way to, I think, the ruins of Hamel. And so they're like, then they meet Ash, and he's got the fucking thing with him. And Ash, you know, he gets like reinvigorated by his classmates, and he gets back on the group with the army. I love Ash Carbide as a character. I think Ash Carbide is an extremely strong character. You know, it does feel a little bit like Star Wars, like prequels, like Star Wars sequels coded, where they're like, oh, like sometimes they'll be like, oh, there's another Jedi that survived. Say Order 66, and it's like, are we really doing this? Like, why are we like retconning it like that? But I'm sure, but like it's handled well enough that I don't mind. Okay, so this game, I'm gonna try to split up because this plot of this game is fucking. I would say this game is extremely long. This game is very, very long by trail standards because I played CS3 and CS4 on relatively low difficulties. Okay, CS3, it took me 51 hours to beat CS3. It took me 56 hours to beat CS4. CS3 and CS4 are long games, and a lot of people do say that the game's a little too long, which I can understand, but for me, and also I will say CS4 is one of those games where I had to like take a break and like stop playing it for a while because I was getting a little bit bored, like tired of playing it constantly. But I mean, I can tell you this right now, I did not feel that way about CS3. Like CS3 is awesome. Anyways, you get to meet up with everybody, and then like Sharon is like part of Ouroboros now. Lecter is like fucking evil, and then you're finally into Fragments. This is maybe the best Fragments / intermission chapter in the Trail series. It's up there with that and the Fragments in Azure, where Lloyd busts out of prison and beats the Gralsweir, and Sight goes big mode. You get to force a break-in on the fucking place. Crow shows up, and you're like, I've had an issue with the openings of CS1, CS2, and CS3, where, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of them are a little bit mid, and if they're not mid, they're really poorly synced up with the visuals. CS4, it's very corny to have the opening, the anime opening in the fight where you get what's his face back, but it also fucks really hard. I love the angry Rin part where Saline turns into like a catgirl for some reason. I mean, it's a plot point, whatever. But anyways, like you go like that, and then they have to beat up, and then they have to beat the shit out of Rin. I think it's awesome. And then you also fight Osborne and Aryan Road, which is actually one of the most annoying battles of all time. Can I just say that? Because I remember there's something about like, I don't think it was like a turn count. Hold up, I forget, but I had to do that like 3 times, not because it was hard for me because I was on the easy difficulty, but because there were some like HP requirements that you had to meet or something like that. I don't remember. It was fucking annoying. Anyways, now you first hear about Mila Mirage, and then there's basically a couple of big things that happen in this game. First of all, you learn about the curse and how the Septarians that Erebonia had influenced the current political situation. This stuff is, I think, rather weak. It feels very Blood Pact coded for my Fire Emblem viewers, where it feels like they just sort of made a somewhat contrived reason to make it so that the people weren't like, the people that kill everybody in Hamel weren't like truly evil. They were just corrupted by a greater presence. But I mean, they're still obviously like hated because of what they did. But like, I don't know. It's a little weak, I would say. Olivier is alive, which I think is a very like strong plot point, because I mean, you get to meet Victor. Victor is alive, and he's like lost an arm or whatever. and he's been like turned into like he's like Red Rose Waste basically. He's been turned into like an Azure Siegfried type brainwashed guy. But then Olivier is also alive, and he shows up at Toval right at the end to save everybody's butt, which I think is cool as like something, because the way that like the overall chessboard stuff is handled is that Musée is spearheading Operation Mille Mirage, and Gilead is doing his best to resist and stop them, because if he stops them, then he just wins. Full stop. Whereas Olivier, he's like, because when everybody's like, I will say, they talk a little bit of shit about Olivier in this game, about like how Olivier wasn't as smart as I expected, and then he totally like outdoes them, which I think is fun. You have the crossbelt stuff, where you meet up with the SSS, you figure out what's going on, and then you organize shit in Crossbell, you make sure everything's fine, and then you get set up for the final meetup at the end of the game, which I think is good. There's the Reen Crow Great Twilight stuff, which is so fucking good. That's, I think, the strongest point of this game, which is the uncertainty of Reen and Crow's status and how things will happen at the end of the game. And this actually does become a plot point later on, which I think is interesting. There's also the way that, because the alliances in Erebonia are all over the place. For example, Aurelia was fighting us in CS1, CS2, now we're fighting with her in CS3, CS4. The McBurn's pretty much always your enemy, but like stuff like that, we're gonna talk about McBurn. We're gonna fucking talk about McBurn, because holy shit. That stuff, I think, is handled reasonably well, with the big standout being Cedric. I think Cedric's actually quite interesting, and I think he's handled reasonably well. Anyways, the last part of this game is like the magical stuff, which I don't really care that much about. Like the lore of like how the Septarian of Steel was forged and all that shit. Like it's interesting enough, but like it also sort of falls in line with the curse stuff, which I'm not too much of a fan of. I love that little meeting that you guys do on the Pantagruel to plan Mille Mirage, and you get to meet everybody else. Lucy's fucking, like, she's like representing Remiferia now, which is crazy to me. You got Kayla and President Rocksmith for Calvard, Chloe, Cassius are here for Liberal, and then the Glorious starts to attack the Pantagruel, which is weird. And then you also like you stop that, you stop the attack, and then the rivalry of the Seven commences. You hop off. This is when all of Olivier shows up. You make the retreat and you get the fuck out of there. And now all of this shit shows up. Now, Blue Blanc apparently is a friend, which I didn't really know. I didn't really know we had it like that. But just no, it's fine. I just wasn't expecting to be Blue Blanc. I like the little rivalry that Blue Blanc and Olivier have had throughout the games. You know, at the start in SC, when Olivier and Blue Blanc meet, they're like super opposed as to what constitutes beauty. And they sort of like come over to each other's side and like learn about each other, and they're like, okay, this guy's actually pretty chill throughout the courses of the games, which I think is cool. You learn about the Osborne Reinhardt stuff. I'm not gonna say it's weak, but I feel like the lore behind why the rivalries happened is much more weak than the rivalries themselves. I think the stuff where everybody has to fight each other, you know, Reen fights Crow and he's like, bitch, you are not leaving. You are staying with me. That was so beautiful to me. He's like, you still owe me a lot of interest on that shit. And then Crow tries to play it off, but you can tell that he's seconds away from breaking, and then Reen manages to rescue him right at the end. It's so beautiful. I love Reen, Schwarzer, and Crow Armbrust's relationship. It's awesome. And then eventually you meet with Rutger and you try to kill him. You kill him, and then Rutger's like, they're like, hey, you want to join us? And Rutger's like, nah, I'm fine with dying. And then V's sobbing, Zeno and Leo are sobbing. It's a little sad. And you meet Aryan Road, and then Aryan Road gets fucking killed by Rufus. This is the second time Rufus has shown up at the end and just nuked something. First he killed Grianos in CS2. Now he's killing Aryan Road in CS4. The rivalries, the mid of this game is actually quite weak, I will say. The chapter 3, Act 3. I really think is rather weak, because that's just the rivalries, basically. I think it's rather weak. It's very long. There's a ton of quests. Not too much of a fit. Eventide shows up right there. I really like Eventide. You get to go in Mission in Wonderland. You get to meet up with a bunch of people. It's fun. And then you also, Reen finally masters the 7th form, which is awesome. And also, okay, this part, it pissed me off a little. Right there in... Oh, I forgot, you get to, like, see Shara and shit like that, and she goes with Olivia, and that's why she's, like, missing for this game. I remember, that was also a plot point. Anyways, Olivier proposes to Sherazade, and she accepts. Can we just talk about this for a second? I dead-ass played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I played 9 games just to watch Olivier marry a woman. What the fuck, dude? Think about how Mueller's gonna feel. What's up with that? Anyways, that's a kind of whatever. The finale of this game is long as fuck. Like, I'm just gonna say it. This game is long as shit. You know, you get to the salt pails show up, and you all like make your attacks on the salt pails. You get the team A, team B stuff, which I think is actually really well done. I really like that part about Cold Steel, is that That's one of the few advantages of having a cast as big as you do in Cold Steel, and it's that you can separate them into teams and do like the Team A, Team B, Team C stuff. I think that's really cool. However, once you get to the Grawl, it's like you spend a ton of time doing the salt pills, and now you're in the Grawl, and the Grawl, I mean not the Grawl, the fucking, you're at like the final salt pill or whatever. Yeah, the Tooth of Danan, and you're like, oh, so I gotta keep doing this because all of the Iron Bloods are there. Cedric is there, Shirley is there, McBurn is there. There's like a bunch of people. Pretty much everything goes about as you expect. Cedric realizes how much of an asshole he's been, and he's sad about it. And then McBurn, I love McBurn. Oh my god. The hints that McBurn drops at the end of CS4 are outrageously cool. Like, holy shit. Even if you hate CS4 with a passion, there is no way you could realistically be like, I don't care, I don't care about what McBurn said. Okay, first of all, McBurn is such an interesting character. He talks to Reen about like, oh, are you mixed? And he's like, what does that mean? And then like, it's about like him having like a different part of a different world in him. We still don't really know or fully understand what McBurn is, but he's like from an outer world. And also, somewhere during this game, we learned just a huge nuke, like a truth nuke bomb that we just did not know, which is that if you try to, like, no matter how far you try to sail or fly off the coast of Zemuria, you're gonna end back up on Zemuria and not in like a globe traversing type deal. You're not gonna be able to get any further away from Zemuria, which is crazy news because that means that Zemuria is somehow locked from there's an outer world from Zemuria. So this is not like a one continent like planet. There's shit outside the world that exists. McBurn, he talks about Ouroboros and he says some shit like, I can't pretend what's going on in this world has nothing to do with me anymore. I think that McBurn is from outside of Zemuria, and that's what makes him like fucking crazy. I think that like the shit that McBurn like remembers about himself and about Ouroboros it's so vague, but it's so fucking interesting, dude. I need to pull up the exact thing. Hold up. Ouroboros at this point has established themselves as like a group of chaos that wants to utilize the power of the Septarians. We've established that. They worked with the Septarian of Mirage in Crossbell, the Septarian of Base in Sky, and the Septarians of Fire and Earth in Cold Steel. That makes sense. Now, oh yeah, Emma just says, okay, let me read this to you guys. For example, no matter how far you try to fly or sail away from the continent, you're unable to progress past a certain point. Is this not crazy to just drop on you? I think that the idea is that Ouroboros, their ultimate goal is to preserve the continent of Zemuria, it's like Attack on Titan style, whereas like it's like an island separated from the rest of the world, and Ouroboros is like they're like the keepers of the continent, and maybe that's why they have such a blatant disregard for like human life, because they know that at the end of their goal is to activate all the Septarians, do some shit with them, and then at the end activate maybe the Septarian of Time, because right now we're missing the Septarians of Water, Wind, and Time. So those are the three ones that we're missing. I'm pretty sure Daybreak is going to be Time based on what we know. Basically, this end, like in the last like 3 hours of the game, you get so many questions about the way Zemuria exists. First of all, Zemuria as a continent is so overwhelmingly dedicated to Adios. There's like no other religion on the continent. Yes, there's like the DG cult, but they got like jumped super hard. I think that the overall, I think the Grandmaster might be fucking Adios. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest, but that's beside the point. What I'm thinking is that, like, Adios is some kind of real person from the outside world, and everybody in the outside world just has these kinds of powers, and like sequestered the continent of Zemuria somehow, either in time, in space, or both, and set up Ouroboros as like people that like restart the time. I think what's going to happen in Daybreak is that they're going to try to restart the timeline as they are wont to do in Ouroboros, because that's it's called their final plan or whatever. But they're going to fail fully, and Van is going to be transported back to his Aramis days, and he's gonna have to figure out how to fix everything. That's gonna be fucking awesome. I'm just gonna say it. Anyways, they said, McBurn said, and Ouroboros, huh? They couldn't have picked a better name. I really think that Ouroboros is supposed to like try to maintain the world, Xenoblade 3 style. I think that's the goal of Ouroboros. Anyways, that final part is fucking crazy. But I think overall, I would say that Cold Steel 4 is an A-tier game because it has a lot of like weak shit in it. The ending stuff where there's like 2 endings, I think it's cool. I like the bad ending a lot, and I think that it's cool that it gets more established in Reverie. And the music is great. And then it's great. Overall, though, I feel like the ending, it's a little, it cops out a little. The only person that fucking dies is Black Outbreak, and I do not give a shit about Black Outbreak. I'm gonna be completely honest. Moving on to Reverie. The way I feel about Reverie is pretty simple. I think that the plot point of Crossbell's under occupation, again, it's a little contrived, but basically Reverie is supposed to, like I said, Sky and Crossbell Erbonia as arcs are very distant, so they wanted to make Sky Third to connect those two and sort of wrap up things in Liberal and give you like a last time to see what's going on in Liberal. Similarly, I'm pretty sure the way that Reverie is supposed to be is that Crossbell Erbonia and the Calvard arc are very separate, so they're like, okay, we're gonna make Reverie so that you can connect those two and try to get people more interested in what's going on in Daybreak. I'd say this game does a slightly worse job than Sky Third of making you interested in what's happening in Calvard, but it does, like in Calvard specifically. Because in Crossbell, actually no, it doesn't. I totally forgot. There's so many leads set up towards the end of CS4 and in Reverie. There's the desertification of the eastern side of the continent, the racial issues in the country. Rocksmith gets deposed for Graham Hart. There's the several mentions of how there's a film industry in there. There's a Bracer in Calvard that's going to be the youngest A-ranker, which is Elaine. And then Jorg sent Ren some kind of message, which brings her over to Calvard. And then the new president has a conversation with the Grandmaster, and it is so interesting. He's like, I'm going to test the world's potential over the next 2.5 years. And he said, as long as you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. And Reen Ishmelga says that something's happening in about 3 years. So I'm starting to think Daybreak is going to be like the final arc of the game, which is weird because we're missing 3 Septarians. I feel like if I had to bet, I feel like after Horizon 2, there's going to be one more arc, and that's going to be the final arc, which is going to kill me, man. I love this series so much. When it ends, it's going to just destroy me. Regardless, we established that it's called the Eternal Recurrence Plan in this game. And there's a lot of cool stuff, you get to have like the little fun mini games. You get to meet a bunch of the people from CS1, CS2, CS3, CS4. You get to finish up a bunch of stuff. However, what this game is 10 times better than Sky Third at is having an overarching plot that's actually interesting. The Lapis, Nadia, Swin, Rufus stuff, the new Imperial Liberation Front stuff is so much more interesting than fucking bum ass Kevin Reese's like the thing with the Louvet's ghost and like his Reese's sister's ghost. Like I think it's okay. Like the plot here is okay, but it's like so one note. This has a lot more going for it. Rufus has just always been a bit of an interesting character, and the fact that it looks like he's taken over the continent and he's like doing his best to fix it, it's cool. The AI stuff I think it feels a little out of place, but I think it's because that is going to be playing a lot more of a role in Daybreak and Daybreak 2, and it already is kind of talked about a decent amount. Like the Retributed Tower stuff is talked about a lot in Daybreak and Daybreak 2, because I'm pretty sure like the higher ups know that it was an AI thing, and so they were like, okay, well, and like AI and like sentient AI is sort of a decently important plot point so far in Daybreak and Daybreak 2. I really like Reverie. Honestly, I feel like getting like a final goodbye to the CS3, CS4 combat system, and a final goodbye to all the people in Cold Steel. It's a lot of fun. Like I feel like there was not much wasted space in Reverie. It is fucking bloated as shit, but this game has to be bloated as shit. I feel like this is one of the few situations where like the cast is ginormous. There's like 72 playable characters, but it would be worse if it wasn't ginormous, because this is like the last time you're gonna get to play with 90% of these characters. We're not gonna get to play as we're probably not gonna get to play as like Toval again. We're probably not going to get to play as Kurt or something like that. We're probably not going to get to play as Angelica. We're probably not going to get to play as George. Like, stuff like that, I think, is, like, you need to give these characters some time. And so, like, everybody gets a little bit of time in the sun. A bunch of stuff happens. You get the setups. I will say the visual novel style, like, post-ending stuff, I don't really understand why those weren't, like, set up. Like, I guess it's because they didn't have the backgrounds for Calvard yet, so they had to like just write it out. At least they could at least fucking voiced it, man. I don't know, I really like Reverie. I know I'm not giving Reverie a bunch of time, but I feel like Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4 have a lot more that they're trying to cover up. Reverie's like sort of a self-contained story that like sets up Rufus and the Nadia and Swin and Lapis, sets up the concept of the sentient AI, and sets up Calvard. Like, it's got a much smaller task, and I think it does it really well. Much better than Sky Third. I should probably move Sky Third up a bit, dude. It's not as bad as CS2. I'm moving Sky Third up. I'll put it in the B tier. Yeah, that's pretty much it. When Horizon 1 comes, I will be I'll be putting these 3 games on the tier list. Right now, I'm like a couple chapters into Daybreak 2. I've been having a great time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!